My sister uttered these cruel words about our elderly mother. Old people without money are just in the way. How could she say such cold things to her own mother? Anger trembled through me. I wasn't interested in Dad's inheritance or anything like that, so I could bear it, but it still upset me deeply. Then, shockingly, my sister and her husband kicked our mother out of the house. I glared at them, but they only smiled smugly, impervious to my protests. As I struggled with what to do next, Mom quietly said, "It's all right," and left the room. Bewildered, I followed her. After walking a distance from the house, she stopped, chuckled, and cheerfully remarked, "Those two are done for now." Perplexed, I asked, "What do you mean?" "My name is Kate. I'm 52 years old. I have never married, but I have no regrets about that. I've worked full-time at a local company, ensuring a stable life for my old age. My mother, Tiffany, is 79 years old. She and my father were known as a loving couple in our neighborhood until he passed away at 89. After his death, my sister Sarah became fixated on his inheritance. Sarah has a grown son who's known for causing trouble, and her husband is quite a character. Money-hungry and pretentious, always preaching that material possessions define one's worth. Their reckless spending habits constantly leave them short on cash, a troublesome pair indeed. Sarah has always been greedy and showy. I recall how, in high school, she would pester our mother for the latest fads. When Mom refused, Sarah resorted to stealing money from her purse. At first, Mom couldn't believe it. She noticed funds disappearing without her knowledge and decided to set a trap, leaving her wallet on the desk and observing from a hidden spot. As expected, Sarah took the money. Mom confronted her immediately, but Sarah shamelessly shouted, "It wasn't me. This is the first time. It's always Kate who does it." Furious, Mom scolded her but seemed relieved that Sarah hadn't stolen from someone else. My sister's husband shared the same mentality, maintaining appearances while their finances dwindled. They seemed eager to shower their son with money. It came to light that my sister and her husband repeatedly approached our parents, asking for financial support. They pressured them, saying, "We want to give our son a proper education. These days, tutoring is essential. Consider it an investment. Can't you spare $50 a month? If you don't help, don't expect us to care for you in your old age. Think of it as securing your future. Give our eldest son more now, and you won't have to worry about your later years." Our parents never intended to depend on anyone for their care, but they fretted about my future. "We're fine, but what about Kate?" My sister and her husband's eyes gleamed as if they found their prey. "Exactly, we can frame it as for Kate. Our eldest son will look after Kate in her old age. If you view it as an investment in our son, surely $50 or $90 isn't too much." Using the guise of care as a shield, they managed to extract a significant sum from our parents. So they continued to deplete our parents' finances. Mom and Dad lived frugally on their pensions, making their lives undoubtedly challenging. Then, their grandson secured a job and moved out of state. I feared he might never return, leaving our parents' financial support in vain. Discussions about tuition ceased, replaced by requests for money to cover their own living expenses. Our son has grown up and moved away, but his education drained us financially. "Can't you continue helping us? The usual $90 will suffice. Kate is unmarried and unreliable. It's always better to have a man around." "Don't worry, Dad. If anything happens, we'll be there in a heartbeat." Our parents realized they were being financially drained, but they felt powerless against my sister and her husband's persuasive arguments. They were skilled at painting their requests as investments for emergencies, even pledging to look after me. Then, our father passed away. It might have been the stress. He had become a mere shadow of his former self, his health visibly deteriorating. When my sister and her husband notified us of Dad's death, her first question was, "What about the inheritance?" It was sadly characteristic of my sister to prioritize that over everything else. Inheritance. "Dad just passed away. This isn't the time for that." I tried to interject, but my sister cut me off. "I'll be there soon. Mom's already there, isn't she?" I was horrified by my sister and her husband. Money seemed to be their sole concern. Even before the funeral ended, she began probing about the inheritance. Turning to Mom, she remarked, "Mom, you're not going to take everything in the inheritance, are you? You'll need care soon. Care requires money and strength, and you know a woman's strength alone isn't enough for that, right?" I struggled to grasp her words. Consider this. Would any mother-in-law feel comfortable revealing her vulnerabilities to a son-in-law she hardly knows? It felt like my sister was simply trying to pressure Mom, intimidate her, and lay claim to the inheritance. And what about Kate? What will become of her if she's left alone? Don't sisters need to support each other sometimes, Mom? You wouldn't want Kate to face a solitary life, would you? How could someone be so consumed by greed? I struggled to even consider her my sister anymore. I anxiously awaited Mom's response to her audacious demand for the inheritance. Mom calmly replied, "All right, I understand. I may need your husband's support in the future, so I'll waive my claim to Dad's inheritance. Is that acceptable?" But it wasn't. I attempted to intervene. "Mom, can we really trust her to honor her word?" Mom motioned for me to remain silent and then turned to me, saying, "Listen to Sarah. You should relinquish the inheritance as well." "All right," Mom insisted firmly, leaving me no choice but to agree. The process of renunciation turned out to be more complex than anticipated, taking several days to complete. Throughout, my sister persistently called, demanding updates. "How's the renunciation going? Hurry up. Is Mom finished yet? Let me know when it's done." Despite my sister's relentless pressure driven by greed, I remained committed to honoring Mom's wishes and continued with the process. Once the renunciation was finalized, we invited my sister and her husband over. Mom announced that we had both relinquished our claims. My sister and her husband exchanged triumphant glances. Gazing at our elderly mother, my sister remarked with a cold smirk, "Old people without money are just a burden." I was stunned, struggling to grasp her words. "What? What did you say?" I demanded, hoping I had misheard. My sister chuckled callously. "I said old people without money are just a burden. You're useless now, Mom. Get it? This house belongs to us now. It's mine, and there's someone here who isn't welcome to stay." How could anyone say such cruel things to their own mother? It's unbelievable, right? Mom's continued presence in our house now seemed odd to my sister. "If you want to stay, you'll need to pay rent and cover living expenses. Is that acceptable?" Of course, it wasn't acceptable. This house held deep sentimental value for Mom, and she couldn't simply leave at their command. Yet after announcing the renunciation of the inheritance, they were already trying to evict the rightful occupants. It was unforgivable, even though we had signed away everything. Mom trembled as she replied, "It's all right, I'll leave. Everything in this house belongs to you now. Do as you wish with it all. I'll take only this small bag. I won't be returning to this house. Goodbye." My sister and her husband smirked maliciously. Fuming with anger, I accompanied Mom as she left. I felt somewhat bewildered as we departed. Even as we walked away, my sister and her husband made no attempt to follow. When we had put enough distance between us and the house, Mom suddenly stopped and burst into triumphant laughter. Why was she laughing? Had she lost her mind? It wasn't surprising, considering she had been manipulated by her own daughter and had now lost her home. Then Mom uttered, "Those two are done for now," with an almost cheerful tone. Confused, I could only manage to ask, "What do you mean?" "I moved out when I started working. By the time I turned 35, I had purchased the condominium. I never thought I'd marry. Where else would Mom go? I couldn't leave her alone, so I brought her to live with me." She repeatedly said, "Thank you. I'm sorry," not out of sorrow, but from a sense of guilt towards me. I knew she must have been deeply hurt. I resolved to live happily with her from then on. Once settled in the condo, Mom began to open up. I wonder why sisters can turn out so differently. I always knew she was greedy, but to this extent. How much money will ever satisfy her? I've contributed approximately $110,000 each year for 15 years towards her son's education. That's a total of $1,650,000. We never really expected any care in return. Was it all for my sake? Mom nodded with a hint of guilt. It seemed she had been contemplating my future, worrying that I might end up alone. I'm certain now that my sister and her husband never had any intention of caring for her parents or me. Despite Mom holding on to hope for Sarah, I doubt they ever had any plans for caregiving. Fortunately, Dad didn't require much care before he passed. It must have suited Sarah well. Mom smiled again, leaving me puzzled about its meaning. Yes, it's clear now. She's content with Dad's inheritance. But she was somewhat naive, I believe. Naive? I inquired. Mom didn't explicitly state it. "You're a kind-hearted child," she murmured softly. Silence settled between us once more. Then she asked, "Did you have expectations regarding the inheritance?" I never relied on it. I didn't care for Dad expecting inheritance. Mom and I were the ones who tended to him, albeit briefly. My sister insisted on male assistance for bathing and toileting, but Mom and I managed his care. I nursed him solely out of gratitude with no expectation in return. And I planned to do the same for Mom without my sister's involvement. It was all out of genuine love for them. Mom, why don't you come live here? I've been feeling lonely anyway, I suggested. Mom's eyes welled with tears this time. She thanked me repeatedly before saying something cryptic. Just give it a few months. I can't explain now, but I promise to tell you everything later. You don't need to suffer or be sad anymore. We can undo what's been done. Can you wait until then without asking questions? I was puzzled but sensed Mom had something on her mind, perhaps about my sister or the inheritance. For now, I agreed silently. Mom's face lit up with a youthful smile. I wondered about her mention of a few months, but I knew better than to press if she wasn't ready to share. I made a conscious effort to put my sister out of my mind completely. We decided to try a weekday hula dance class. How does this outfit look for Tuesday? Mom asked, a mix of embarrassment and happiness evident in her expression. I wanted Mom to enjoy as many moments of joy as possible while she still could. Gradually, she began to relax more and smile more often. After a few months had passed, I had nearly forgotten about our waiting period. Mom, however, remembered clearly and seemed cheerful that morning. It's been a few months indeed, and they've changed our lives, she remarked. Is that what you meant? Then Mom revealed something startling. After a certain period, you can no longer renounce your inheritance. Renounce the inheritance. What does that mean? I was taken aback. Mom and I had already relinquished our claim to the property. Why would renunciation come up again? We've already renounced our inheritance, haven't we? This isn't about us. It's about Sarah. I was bewildered. Why would Sarah renounce the inheritance? Mom chuckled triumphantly. Because there was no inheritance, only debts. That couple inherited nothing but debt. What a twist of fate. Dad didn't own any property, just liabilities. Mom and I had renounced any claim, so we escaped the debt. Meanwhile, my sister and her husband inherited not property, but debts. I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you more, but I was afraid it would hurt you if you knew the truth. And perhaps you would have told Sarah. I wanted to shoulder the blame alone, so I kept it from you, Mom confessed. I was stunned. Mom had patiently waited for her moment, keeping this revelation to herself. She had anticipated that if I knew about my sister inheriting the debt, I might inadvertently inform her, so she kept it secret. This plan was actually Dad's idea. He gradually transferred his savings into my bank account. He deliberately incurred some debt, but it was strategic, Mom explained. He purchased several plots of land in remote areas, some needing immediate repairs, with the intention for Sarah to inherit it all. Mom revealed they had retained some savings to avoid suspicion from my sister, but ultimately, it resulted in a $200,000 debt. Did you know you can't inherit savings without also inheriting the debt? It's either accept everything or renounce it all. What foolish children, Mom remarked, almost gleeful at Dad's scheme. Witnessing Mom's determination, I understood the depth of her disdain for my sister. Mom, perhaps I would have told Sarah if I had known earlier. But now, considering her predicament, I can't help but feel a twinge of satisfaction. I suppose I felt that anger too, I admitted. My sister and her husband were left with a $200,000 debt. Some properties required immediate repairs, adding to their financial burden. The window for renouncing the inheritance had passed, leaving them no option to opt out now. Blinded by the allure of $100,000, they had ended up with a substantial debt. They might soon sell their rural properties, likely fetching far less than what they paid. Their marriage could even suffer due to the financial strain. Eventually, my sister realized the gravity of the situation and called me in panic. Help me, the debt is overwhelming, she pleaded. It's infuriating. Mom, you knew this, didn't you? You're partly to blame. Pay off my debt now. We're family. Her selfishness left me astounded. Inheriting means taking on the debt too. I didn't know that. I only wanted the property, not the debt. You take it, you can have the debt, she yelled angrily with the phone. Her demands were irrational and selfish. She insisted, you should inherit the debt as a family. Cancel the renunciation. Her words were nonsensical and unreasonable. I'm hanging up now. Maybe you should discuss this with your own family, your husband and son, though I can guess what they'll think of you. I ended the call, feeling a sense of clarity and relief for the first time in a while. I had anticipated my sister and her husband might divorce. Indeed, my sister ended up getting divorced, but it was her husband who initiated it. As I suspected, he was driven by greed and likely saw no benefit in remaining married to someone burdened with debt. However, they couldn't divorce immediately with a sudden $200,000 debt hanging over them. They needed to settle everything before proceeding with the divorce. The house they lived in was sold. My sister and her husband, who always relied on our parents' money, never saved anything. Banking on Dad's inheritance, they probably won't be able to clear the debt. What lies ahead for my sister is the daunting task of working diligently to pay it off. She insists she won't divorce, though it seems less about love for her husband and more about not wanting him to escape the debt and leave her alone. It's exactly the kind of mindset my sister would have. It's almost pitiful. Meanwhile, I continue to reside in the condo with Mom. It turns out Mom had transferred money into her own bank account and isn't facing financial struggles. She gives me around $70 each month for expenses. I've tried to decline it numerous times, but Mom insists, vowing to continue until I accept. Reluctantly, I've started accepting the $70. Despite receiving this money, I'm not spending it recklessly. You never know when Mom or I might need it, so I'm saving diligently. The hula dancing we started as a mother-daughter activity turned out to be surprisingly enjoyable. Most importantly, seeing Mom laugh and relish herself makes me realize that life isn't so bad after all.
I stared at the empty champagne glasses, arranged in perfect rows across the pristine white tablecloth. Each one caught the sunset's glow from the rooftop venue, creating tiny prisms of light that should have been magical. Instead, they mocked me with their emptiness. My name is Haley, and I'd spent 3 weeks planning what was supposed to be the perfect proposal dinner. Not my proposal. I was the planner, not the bride-to-be. My boyfriend Evan had hired my own company to orchestrate his grand gesture, not knowing I'd taken over the project personally. Miss Morgan? The catering manager approached, wringing his hands. The guests are getting restless. Should we begin serving? I checked my phone again. No messages, no calls. Just the time. 7:45 p.m. Evan was now 45 minutes late to his own proposal dinner. Give it 5 more minutes, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. 20 of our closest friends and family members were waiting, including my sister Lily, who kept shooting me concerned glances from across the room. Sophie, my best friend and designated photographer for the evening, lowered her camera. Haley, maybe you should try calling him again? Already did. 3 times. I smoothed down my navy cocktail dress, a nervous habit I'd developed over years of managing crisis moments at events. But this was different. This was personal. My phone buzzed. Finally. But instead of Evan's face, I saw a text message. Can't make it. Something came up. Sorry. The words blurred as I read them again. And again. 7 words. 7 stupid words to demolish weeks of planning and years of trust. He's not coming, I announced, my voice carrying across the expectant silence. The string quartet I'd hired stopped mid-song, their bows hovering uncertainly over their instruments. Lily rushed over, her green eyes wide with what looked like panic rather than surprise. What do you mean he's not coming? Did he say why? I handed her my phone, watching her face carefully. Something flickered in her expression. Was it guilt? Relief? Before she composed herself. This isn't like him, she said, but her voice wavered slightly. Isn't it? Sophie cut in, her tone sharp. She'd never fully warmed to Evan, despite my attempts to bring them closer. Now I wondered if she'd seen something I'd missed. The next hour passed in a blur of apologies and awkward goodbyes. I maintained my professional smile, thanking guests for coming, assuring them everything was fine. It wasn't until the last guest left that I allowed myself to sink into one of the ghost white chairs. I'll handle the vendors, Sophie offered, squeezing my shoulder. You should go home. I'll take her, Lily said quickly. Too quickly. No. I stood up, gathering my composure like armor. I need to stay. This is still my event, even if it's turned into a disaster. Haley, Lily started, but I cut her off. I'm fine. Really, just give me a minute alone. They retreated reluctantly, leaving me with the sunset view of the city I'd chosen so carefully for this moment. The perfect backdrop for a perfect proposal. What a joke. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Evan. We need to talk. Tomorrow. Lunch? I typed back a single word. Where? His response came immediately. Our usual place. 1 p.m. Our usual place. The cafe where we'd had our first date 2 years ago, where he'd first told me he loved me, where apparently he was planning to end things. Because that's what this was, wasn't it? You don't skip your own proposal dinner unless you've changed your mind about the whole thing. As I began directing the cleanup, I caught sight of Lily in an intense conversation with someone on her phone, her face hidden in the shadows. When she noticed me watching, she quickly ended the call and plastered on a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. That's when I knew. Something wasn't just wrong, it was worse than I imagined. And tomorrow at lunch, I'd find out exactly how much of my life had been built on lies. The cafe's familiar warmth felt foreign now, like a childhood home occupied by strangers. I arrived 15 minutes early, watching Evan's usual parking spot through the window. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, so I gripped my coffee cup tighter, letting the heat burn away the tremors. Sophie's words from this morning echoed in my head. "Let me come with you. I don't trust him." But this conversation needed to happen alone. I'd spent the night piecing together a timeline of strange occurrences. Evan's sudden business trips, Lily's evasive behavior, the way they both seemed to disappear at the same social events. Evan walked in at exactly 1 p.m., impeccable as always in his tailored suit, the same suit he should have worn to propose in. Haley. He slid into the seat across from me, his expression carefully neutral. "About last night." "Save it," I cut him off. "Just tell me why." He leaned back, studying me with those calculating eyes I used to find so captivating. "Things have been complicated lately. I needed time to think." "Complicated?" I let out a sharp laugh. "You had me plan my own humiliation. That's not complicated, Evan. That's cruel." A flash of genuine remorse crossed his face, or maybe I just wanted to see it there. "I never meant for you to be involved in the planning. That was unfortunate." "Unfortunate," I repeated, the word tasting bitter. "Like how unfortunate it is that my sister keeps showing up at your office after hours?" His composure cracked for just a second, a slight widening of the eyes, a quick clench of his jaw. "Lily's been helping with some graphic design work. You knew that. Did I?" I pulled out my phone, scrolling through the photos Sophie had sent me this morning. Because these don't look like business meetings. The images showed Evan and Lily entering his office building at 9 p.m. last Thursday, then leaving separately around midnight. Nothing definitively damning, but enough to make my stomach turn. "You're having me followed now?" His voice hardened. "No, but apparently I should have been." I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. "You know what's really unfortunate, Evan? That I had to hear about your lunch with Elena from the catering staff at LeBlanc." This time, his mask slipped completely. "How did you—" "I own an event planning company. People talk to me." I gathered my purse, fighting to keep my voice steady, especially when they see my fiancé having an intimate lunch with his ex-girlfriend the day before he's supposed to propose. "It's not what you think. Save the explanation for Lily. I'm sure she'll be very interested to hear about Elena." As I turned to leave, he grabbed my wrist. "Haley, wait. There are things you don't understand." I yanked my arm free. "You're right. I don't understand how my sister could do this. I don't understand how you could make me look like a fool in front of everyone we know. But mostly, I don't understand why you're still lying when we both know it's over." I walked out, my heels clicking against the tile floor like a metronome counting down the seconds of our relationship. Outside, I spotted Lily waiting in her car across the street. She didn't see me, too focused on her phone, probably waiting for Evan's signal. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophie. "Found something. Come to my studio, now." I took one last look at the cafe window. Evan was already on his phone, probably warning Lily I knew something. Let them scramble. Let them try to cover their tracks. They didn't know about Elena's voicemail yet, the one Sophie had somehow obtained. They didn't know about the financial records showing regular payments from Evan's company to Marcus's consulting firm. They didn't know that their careful house of cards was about to collapse. I got into my car, hands steady now. The time for tears and confusion was over. Now it was time to plan something much bigger than a proposal dinner. Something that would make last night's humiliation look like a casual disappointment in comparison. My phone buzzed again, Lily calling. I declined it, watching her face fall in her car's rearview mirror. Poor Lily, always so transparent with her emotions. She had no idea what was coming. I started my engine, heading towards Sophie's studio. Whatever she'd found, it would be another piece in the puzzle of betrayal I was slowly assembling. And when I finally had the full picture, no one would see the revenge coming until it was too late. Sophie's studio felt like a crime scene when I walked in. Documents and photos covered every surface, connected by red string like a conspiracy theorist's fever dream. She stood in the center, her camera forgotten around her neck. "I found Elena," she said without preamble. My stomach dropped. "And? She's dead, Haley." The words hit like a physical blow. I grabbed the nearest chair, steadying myself. "What do you mean, dead?" "Car accident, 6 months ago." Sophie handed me a newspaper clipping. Except it wasn't an accident. Look at the date. I scanned the article. 2 days after Elena had threatened to expose Evan's business practices to the SEC. The timing wasn't subtle. There's more. Sophie pulled up financial records on her laptop. Evan's company has been hemorrhaging money for months, but look where it's going. The screen showed regular transfers to an offshore account, each one coinciding with a payment from Marcus's consulting firm, the same firm where my sister Lily had started freelancing 3 months ago. My phone buzzed. Another message from Lily. "Please talk to me. It's not what you think." "Oh, it's exactly what I think," I muttered, silencing the phone. Sophie hesitated. "There's something else you need to see." She played a voicemail recording. Elena's voice, shaky but determined, filled the studio. "Evan, I know what you and Marcus are planning. Using Lily to get to Haley's client list? That's low, even for you. But the SEC fraud, that's what's going to bury you. I'm meeting them tomorrow unless..." The message cut off. The next day, Elena's car went off a bridge. "How did you get this?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Elena sent copies to multiple people. Insurance. Sophie's eyes met mine. "I'm not the only one who has it." A knock at the studio door made us both jump. Through the frosted glass, I recognized Lily's silhouette. "Don't," Sophie warned, but I was already moving. I opened the door. Lily stood there, mascara streaked down her face. "Haley, please." "How long?" I demanded. "What?" "How long have you been helping Evan steal my clients?" Her face crumpled. "It wasn't like that. Marcus said it was just market research." "Market research?" I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. "Is that what you call sleeping with my fiancé too?" Lily flinched. "That only happened once. I was drunk and..." "Save it." I stepped back into the studio. "Did you know about Elena?" The color drained from her face. "What about Elena?" "She's dead, Lily. Convenient timing, don't you think?" "No." She shook her head violently. "No, Evan wouldn't. Marcus said she moved to Europe." "Marcus says a lot of things, doesn't he?" I grabbed Elena's accident report from Sophie's desk. "Like how he's just doing consulting work, not helping Evan launder money through your graphic design contracts?" Lily swayed, grabbing the doorframe. "I didn't know. I swear, Haley, I didn't know about any of this." "Get out." "Please, let me explain." "Get out!" I slammed the door in her face, my hands shaking so badly I could barely turn the lock. Sophie touched my shoulder. "What are you going to do?" I stared at the web of evidence before us. The financial records, the accident report, Elena's final warning. All the pieces of a puzzle I never wanted to solve. First, I'm going to call the SEC myself. I pulled out my phone. Then I'm going to destroy everything they've built, their reputations, their business, their perfect little scheme. "Haley." Sophie's voice was careful. That could get dangerous. If they really had something to do with Elena's death, then they should have thought of that before they involved my sister. I started gathering the documents. They wanted access to my client list? Fine. Let's see how those clients react when they learn where their money's really going. My phone lit up with a text from Evan. "We need to talk. All of us. Tonight." I showed it to Sophie, who shook her head. "It's a trap." "Of course it is." I texted back, "LeBlanc, 8 p.m. The same restaurant where he'd met Elena before her death. Let them think they had the upper hand. Let them think they could still control this situation. I had evidence of their fraud, proof of their betrayal, and nothing left to lose. By the time this was over, they'd learn what it really meant to trust the wrong person. LeBlanc's elegant interior felt like a stage set now, with every server and guest a potential witness to whatever was about to unfold. I arrived early, choosing a corner table that gave me a clear view of both entrances. The flash drive in my clutch felt heavier than it should, weighted with evidence that could destroy lives. Marcus arrived first, sliding into the seat across from me without invitation. "You need to stop digging," he said, his usual charm replaced by something harder. Interesting opening line. I sipped my water, studying him over the rim. No, hello, future sister-in-law? Elena should have stopped digging too. The threat hung in the air between us. I set my glass down carefully, noting how his left hand kept twitching toward his jacket pocket. "You know what's fascinating, Marcus?" I kept my voice light. How someone so careful could leave such a messy paper trail. His jaw tightened. "Whatever you think you found, table for two?" Lily's voice cut through our tension. She stood there in her favorite blue dress, the one I'd bought her for her last birthday, with Evan close behind her. "Isn't this cozy?" Evan said, pulling out Lily's chair. The gesture was familiar, practiced. How long had they been rehearsing these little moments? "Almost like family," I agreed. "Speaking of which, how's your mother, Marcus? Still managing that bridge club in Miami?" Color drained from his face. The woman who died in Elena's car hadn't been Elena at all. But proving that would take more than the circumstantial evidence I had. For now, the fact that he recognized the threat was enough. "We should order," Evan suggested smoothly, but his knuckles were white around his menu. "Actually, I already ordered for everyone." I smiled. "Hope you don't mind. I know all your favorites, after all." Lily shifted uncomfortably. "Haley, please. Can we just talk about this like adults? Like the adults who orchestrated a 2-year con to access my client list?" I pulled out my phone, scrolling through messages. "Or the adults who've been systematically draining those clients' accounts through fake investment schemes?" "It's more complicated than that," Evan started. "It always is." I looked directly at Lily. "Remember when Mom died? How complicated things were then? How you swore we'd always protect each other?" Tears welled in her eyes. "I never meant to sleep with my fiancé, to help him steal from people who trusted me, to get involved with—" I caught myself, noting Marcus's subtle head shake at Evan. Interesting. They hadn't told Lily everything. The waiter arrived with our food, 4 plates of Elena's favorite dish. Marcus's hand jerked so violently he knocked over his water glass. "Is something wrong?" I asked innocently. "I thought everyone liked seafood linguine. It was Elena's go-to order here, wasn't it, Evan?" "Enough games," Evan snapped. "What do you want?" "Want? I want my sister back. I want the last 2 years of my life back." I leaned forward. "But since that's impossible, I'll settle for watching you lose everything instead." "You don't want to do this," Marcus warned. "Actually, I do. But first," I turned to Lily. "Did they tell you about the insurance policy? The one that paid out after the accident?" Lily frowned. "What insurance policy?" "The one in your name." I pulled out a document, sliding it across the table. "Signed 3 days before Elena's car went off that bridge, with you as the beneficiary." The color drained from her face as she read. "I never signed this." "No," I agreed softly. "You didn't." The pieces were falling into place behind her eyes. The forged signature, the convenient timing, the way Marcus had insisted she start working with them right after Elena's death. Evan reached for the paper, but Lily snatched it back. "What did you do?" she whispered, looking between him and Marcus. "Lily, baby, let me explain," Marcus started. "Don't call me that." She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "Don't ever call me that again." As she rushed out, Evan and Marcus exchanged a look that confirmed everything I'd suspected. They hadn't just betrayed me. They'd used my sister as an unwitting accomplice in something much darker. I stood up, dropping several bills on the table. "Dinner's on me, gentlemen. Consider it a parting gift." "This isn't over," Evan called after me. I turned back, meeting his gaze. "No, it's not. But now Lily knows what you really are. And that's just the beginning." The SEC documents felt heavy in my hands as I watched Evan's company through the glass walls of their downtown office. From my car, I could see him pacing in his corner office, phone pressed to his ear. One email from me and those documents would reach every major news outlet in the city. My phone lit up with Sophie's message. "Lily's here. She's a mess. Says Marcus threatened her." Of course he did. I started the engine, but another text stopped me. "Someone broke into my studio last night. All the Elena evidence is gone." My hands trembled as I dialed Sophie's number. She answered on the first ring. "Are you okay?" I asked. "I'm fine, but Haley, they left something, a photo of your parents' car accident." The world tilted sideways. That accident had never been explained. A brake failure on a clear day. Both parents dead instantly. I'd been 22, Lily 20. "Get out of there," I said. "Take Lily and go to the lake house," she finished. "Already on our way." I ended the call, my mind racing. The lake house was our emergency spot off the grid, where we'd hidden after our parents died. Only family knew about it. My office was closer than Evan's building. I needed those backup files before. A tap on my window made me jump. Marcus stood there, hands in his pockets, smiling like we were meeting for coffee. I rolled down the window an inch. "Following me now? Just making sure you don't do anything rash." He glanced at the SEC documents on my passenger seat, like sending those to the wrong people. "You mean the right people? You know what's interesting about brake lines?" He leaned closer. "How easily they can fail. Twice even." The threat hung between us, crystal clear. "Get in," I said. He blinked. "What?" "Get in the car, Marcus. You want to talk? Let's talk." He hesitated, then walked around to the passenger side. As soon as he closed the door, I hit the accelerator. "What are you doing?" He grabbed the dashboard as I swerved through traffic. "Taking us somewhere private." I turned onto the highway, pushing the speed limit. "You want to discuss brake failures? Let's do it properly." His composure cracked. "Slow down." "Why? Scared of accidents?" I changed lanes aggressively. "Tell me about my parents." "I don't know what you're..." 8 years ago, Marcus. Before you met Lily, before Evan started his company. You worked at the garage that serviced their car. He went very still. "How did you..." Elena didn't just keep records about Evan. She had files on everyone. I took a sharp exit. "Including the mechanic who helped stage their accident. Pull over." "No." I pressed harder on the gas. "First, you're going to call Evan. Put him on speaker." "You're insane." "Maybe, but I'm also the one driving." I swerved again, making him grab the door. "Make the call." His hands shaking, he dialed. Evan answered immediately. "Where are you?" Evan demanded. "With your ex-fiancée," Marcus said, "who's apparently lost her mind." "Having fun yet?" I asked loudly. "Because I am. Nothing like a nice drive to clear the head. Maybe we'll check the brakes when we stop, if we stop." "Haley," Evan's voice turned serious. "Whatever you think you know. I know everything." I took another turn too fast. "About Elena, about my parents, about how you used my sister to cover your tracks. The only question is, what am I going to do about it?" Silence filled the car. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued. "You're going to transfer back every penny you stole. You're going to confess to Elena's murder. And you're going to leave my sister alone." "Or what?" Evan asked. I laughed, the sound hollow even to my ears. "Or I drive this car off the same bridge where Elena died, with your partner in crime beside me. Your choice." Marcus's face went ash white as we approached the bridge. "You wouldn't," Evan said, but uncertainty crept into his voice. "Wouldn't I? You killed my parents, used my sister, stole my life." I pressed the accelerator harder. "Maybe it's time someone showed you what real revenge looks like." The bridge loomed ahead, its guardrails gleaming in the afternoon sun, just like they had the day Elena died. "Tick-tock, boys," I said softly. "What's it going to be?" The charity gala sparkled with false promises, just like everything else in my life had. I stood at the podium, watching Evan and Lily enter arm in arm, their practiced smiles never reaching their eyes. 300 of the city's elite turned to watch them, unaware they were about to witness something far more entertaining than another engagement announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice steady despite the weight of the USB drive in my hand. "Tonight we're here to talk about trust." Evan's head snapped up, his eyes meeting mine across the ballroom. He knew. Of course he knew. But he couldn't stop what was already in motion. "Trust in our financial institutions," I continued, clicking to the first slide. "Trust in our loved ones." Another click. Elena's accident report appeared on the screen. "And trust in justice." Gasps rippled through the crowd as bank statements replaced the accident report, showing millions in fraudulent transfers. Evan started moving toward the stage, but security, hired by me, not him, blocked his path. My former fiancé, Evan Carter, and his associate Marcus Reed have been running an elaborate Ponzi scheme through their investment firm. My voice carried over the growing murmurs, but that's not their worst crime. Lily stood frozen, her champagne glass slipping from her fingers. The crash echoed through the suddenly silent room. 8 years ago, they orchestrated a car accident that killed 2 people. My parents' photos appeared on screen. And 6 months ago, they murdered Elena Martinez to cover their tracks. Chaos erupted. Phones came out recording everything. Evan's face contorted with rage as he shoved past security. "You have no proof," he snarled, reaching for the podium. I held up the USB drive. "I have every proof, already sent to the SEC, FBI, and every major news outlet in the country." "You're destroying everything," he hissed. "Like you destroyed my family?" The sound of breaking glass cut through the commotion. Marcus had Lily by the arm, dragging her toward the exit. "Tell them," he ordered. "Tell them it's all lies." But Lily pulled away, tears streaming down her face. "I can't. Not anymore. Then you'll go down with us." Marcus reached into his jacket. The gunshot was deafening. Screams erupted as people rushed for the exits. I saw Lily fall, red blooming across her blue dress. My feet moved before my brain could process what was happening. No, no, no. I pressed my hands against the wound in her shoulder, her blood warm and sticky between my fingers. "Stay with me, Lily. Please." "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know about Mom and Dad." Evan's laughter cut through the chaos. He stood over us, holding another gun. "Always trying to save each other. How touching." "You're surrounded," I said. "It's over. Maybe." He aimed the gun at my head. "But you won't be around to see how it ends." A second shot rang out. I flinched, but it was Evan who stumbled backward, clutching his arm. Sophie stood in the doorway, her camera forgotten, holding the security guard's weapon. "Actually," she said, "I think we all will." As police sirens wailed in the distance, I held my sister close, watching my carefully orchestrated revenge crumble into something messier and more violent than I'd planned. Lily's blood seeped into my dress, a stark reminder that vengeance always demands its own price. "The evidence," Evan groaned from the floor. "It'll never hold up. You've got nothing but circumstantial—" "She has me." Elena stepped through the crowd, very much alive, though her face bore scars from the accident that had killed her sister instead. "And I have everything." My victory should have felt sweeter. Instead, watching Lily pale from blood loss, seeing the wreckage of lives scattered across the ballroom floor, I realized revenge wasn't the clean, satisfying thing I'd imagined. It was messy, costly, and left scars that might never heal. As paramedics rushed in and police officers began securing the scene, I caught my reflection in a shattered champagne glass. I barely recognized the person staring back, someone who'd become as calculating and ruthless as the people she'd sought to destroy. The question wasn't whether I'd won. The question was what I'd lost along the way. The hospital corridor stretched endlessly before me as I followed the detective's brisk pace. Through the window of Lily's room, I could see Sophie standing guard, her camera ready as always. "We've got them both in custody," Detective Chen said, stopping at the door. "But there's something you need to see first." She handed me a phone, Elena's, recovered from a safety deposit box. The video started playing automatically. Elena, alive but terrified, speaking directly to the camera. "If you're watching this, I'm probably dead. Like my sister was supposed to be dead. Like the Morgans were supposed to be dead." My hand trembled as faces flashed across the screen. Not just my parents, but others. All accidents. All connected to Evan's rise to power. "Your sister's awake," Sophie called from the doorway, "and she's talking." Inside, Lily lay pale against white sheets, but her eyes were clear. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "Marcus escaped custody." Before I could respond, Elena stepped into the room. The scars on her face caught the fluorescent light, a permanent reminder of the accident that killed her sister instead of her. "He'll come for the evidence," Elena said. "All of it." "Let him." I pulled out my phone, sending the video file to every contact I had. It's too late to bury the truth now. The lights flickered, then went out. Emergency generators hummed to life, casting everything in an eerie red glow. Through the window, I saw hospital security running toward the stairs. "He's here," Sophie said, checking her camera's memory card. "And he's not alone." A gunshot echoed from the stairwell, then another. "Get Lily out," I ordered Sophie. "Use the service elevator. Elena, go with them." "What about you?" Lily grabbed my hand. "Haley, please." "I started this. I'll finish it." The door burst open. Marcus stood there, wild-eyed, gun trained on Elena. Behind him, Evan emerged from the shadows, his arm still bandaged from Sophie's shot. "The video," Evan demanded. "Delete it, now." "Already gone viral." I stepped between them and Lily's bed. "Check your phone. Check any phone." Marcus fired at the ceiling, sending plaster raining down. "You think this is a game? Your sister dies next." "Like you killed Elena's sister?" I watched his face contort. Or was that supposed to be Elena? Hard to tell identical twins apart in a burning car, isn't it? "Shut up." Marcus swung the gun toward me. "Marcus," Evan's voice carried a warning. "We need her alive to..." "To what?" Elena stepped forward. "To sign over the company? Like you made me sign over mine before you tried to kill me?" Another shot rang out, but not from Marcus's gun. He crumpled, revealing Detective Chen in the doorway, her weapon steady. Evan lunged for Marcus's fallen gun. I kicked it away, sending it skittering under Lily's bed. He grabbed my throat instead, slamming me against the wall. "You could have had everything," he snarled. "We could have built an empire." "Built on what?" I choked out. "Murder? Theft? My sister's guilt? On survival." His grip tightened. "Your parents were weak. Elena was weak. But you understand what it takes. You're just like me." "No." I drove my knee up, breaking his hold. "I'm nothing like you." As he stumbled back, Sophie's camera flashed, capturing his rage, his desperation, his final moment of freedom before Detective Chen's handcuffs clicked shut. "Haley Morgan." He spat my name like poison. "Always planning the perfect event. Was this ending perfect enough for you?" I looked at Lily, alive and safe. At Elena, finally free from hiding. At Sophie, documenting every moment of justice served. Actually, I rubbed my bruised throat. I think it could use one final touch. I pulled out Elena's phone, playing the last video she'd recorded, Evan's full confession, filmed during our confrontation at LeBlanc, transmitted live to the FBI. As they led him away, I sat beside Lily's bed, taking her hand. The revenge I'd planned had nearly destroyed us both. But maybe, in its ashes, we could build something stronger than before. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for everything." "I know." I squeezed her hand. "Me too." Outside, sirens wailed into the night, carrying away the men who'd thought they could bury their secrets forever. They never understood that some truths refuse to stay hidden, no matter how deep you try to bury them. The courthouse steps felt colder than they should in spring. I watched Evan and Marcus being led away in handcuffs, their expensive suits replaced by prison orange. Neither looked back. Men like them never do. Elena stood beside me, her scars catching the morning light. "The money's been traced," she said. "They're returning it to all the victims. Not everything can be returned." I thought of my parents, of Elena's sister, of all the lives broken beyond repair. "No," she agreed, "but some things can be rebuilt." Inside my office, Lily was waiting. She'd insisted on coming back to work, even with her arm still in a sling. The design sketches on her desk were different now, memorials for those lost to Evan's schemes, funded by the recovered money. "The Thompson wedding called," she said, not looking up. "They want to know if we're still handling their event." "Are we?" She finally met my eyes. "That depends. Are we still a team?" The question carried the weight of everything we'd lost and found. I picked up one of her sketches, a garden memorial with 2 intertwined trees reaching toward the sky. "You designed this for Mom and Dad?" She nodded, tears threatening. I thought, maybe it's time to build something beautiful from all this ugliness. Sophie burst in, camera in hand as always. "You need to see this." She pulled up a news article on her tablet. They found more evidence in Evan's private servers, other accidents, other families. "How many?" I asked, though part of me didn't want to know. "Dozens, going back years before he met you." She hesitated. And there's something else. Remember that bridge club in Miami? Marcus's mother? Wasn't his mother. Another victim who knew too much, replaced by someone who looked similar enough. They had a whole network of people helping them hide bodies and identities. Lily's hand found mine across the desk. This time I didn't pull away. "What happens now?" she asked. I looked at the three women before me, my sister, who'd lost her way but found her courage, Sophie, whose loyalty never wavered, and Elena, who'd sacrificed everything to expose the truth. Now we finish what we started. I pulled out a file I'd been working on. There are other families out there who deserve answers, other victims who need justice. "It's dangerous," Sophie warned. "Some of Evan's associates are still out there. So are we." Elena's voice carried steel beneath its softness, and we know how to fight back now. A notification pinged on my phone, Detective Chen requesting a meeting. More evidence had surfaced, more connections to unravel. The web of deceit stretched further than any of us had imagined. "I can't ask you to risk everything again," I told them. Lily stood, her good arm reaching for a fresh sketchpad. "You're not asking, we're choosing." Sophie raised her camera, capturing the moment, not of victory or vengeance, but of four women choosing to stand together against the shadows that had tried to break them. "Besides," Elena added, touching her scars, "some fights choose you." I looked at my reflection in the window, remembering the woman who'd planned her revenge with such cold precision. She was still there, but changed, tempered by loss, strengthened by truth, guided by something deeper than vengeance. "One condition," I said, turning back to them. "We do this right. No more secrets between us. No more shadows to hide in." Lily's design took shape on her pad, a phoenix rising from ashes, its wings spread wide enough to shelter those beneath. Protection, not revenge. Justice, not vengeance. "The Thompson wedding's next week," she said, a hint of her old smile returning. "Should we show them how Morgan sisters throw a party?" First, I picked up Detective Chen's message. We have some other plans to make. Outside, spring sunlight broke through clouds, casting long shadows across the city. But shadows don't seem so dark once you've learned to navigate them. Sometimes they even show you the way forward if you're brave enough to look. Sophie raised her camera one more time. "Ready?" We were, all of us. Not for an ending, but for whatever came next. Together.
The phone vibrated against the marble countertop like an angry wasp. Mother Thompson's name flashed across the screen, and my stomach knotted before I even picked up. 3 months of wedding planning had taught me exactly what that particular ringtone meant. Another battle was about to begin. "Selena, darling," her voice dripped honey-coated venom. "I've just heard the most disturbing news from the country club. You're planning to have the ceremony in your mother's backyard?" I traced my finger along the counter's edge, counting to 3 before responding. "Yes, Evelyn, it's intimate, meaningful, and absolutely unacceptable." The honey vanished. The Thompsons have hosted every wedding at St. Augustine's Cathedral for 4 generations. 4 generations, Selena. Do you understand what you're throwing away? My name is Selena, and I was about to become the family disappointment. Again, Michael agrees with me about keeping things simple, I said, though my voice wavered slightly. The truth was, Michael hadn't exactly agreed. He'd just stopped arguing about it. "Simple?" She spat the word like spoiled milk. "Is that what you call embarrassing our entire social circle? Richard is on the hospital board. I chair 3 charity committees. What will people think?" The familiar heat crept up my neck. They might think we're focused on what matters instead of, "What matters is family tradition. What matters is respect." Her voice rose sharply. "But I suppose you wouldn't understand that, coming from, well." The unfinished sentence hung between us like a poisoned arrow. Coming from what, Evelyn? A middle-class family? A public school education? A mother who worked as a librarian instead of organizing charity galas? "I need to go," I managed, my fingers white-knuckled around the phone. "Michael will be home soon." Just remember, darling, you're not just marrying Michael, you're marrying into the Thompson name, a name that means something in this city. The call ended, but I stood frozen, letting the phone's edge dig into my palm. Through the kitchen window, I could see Mom's backyard, the massive oak tree where Michael had proposed, the garden beds we'd spent weekends perfecting. It was beautiful, meaningful, and according to my future mother-in-law, completely worthless. I heard the front door open, followed by Michael's familiar footsteps. "Hey, babe, you okay? You look—" "Your mother called." The words came out sharper than intended. His shoulders tensed. "About the wedding? About how I'm destroying 4 generations of Thompson tradition." I turned to face him. "About how my background isn't good enough for your family name." "She didn't mean, don't." I held up my hand. "Don't defend her. Not this time." Michael ran his fingers through his hair, his tell when he's stressed. "What do you want me to do? They're my parents. I want you to stand up to them, to tell them that our wedding is about us, not about their social status or their country club friends or their precious family name." He stayed silent, and in that silence, something shifted, something final. I walked to the window, pressing my forehead against the cool glass. Behind me, Michael shuffled uncomfortably, caught between loyalty to his parents and love for me. But I wasn't watching him. I was watching the oak tree, remembering his proposal, remembering how simple everything had seemed then. "I need some air," I said finally, grabbing my keys. "Don't wait up." As I drove away, my phone buzzed again. Evelyn. I ignored it, but her words echoed in my head. The Thompson name means something in this city. Fine. If she wanted to play games with names and reputations, I knew exactly who to call. It was time Jennifer Collins and her father, the senator, got involved in this little family drama. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with a perfectly polite smile and a guest list that would make Evelyn Thompson choke on her morning mimosa. I found myself at Mom's house well past midnight, sitting at her worn kitchen table while she brewed chamomile tea. The familiar scent of lavender dish soap and old cookbooks wrapped around me like a comfort blanket, but even that couldn't ease the tension in my shoulders. "You're going to wear a groove in that table," Mom said, watching me trace the same old water ring for the 100th time. "Michael texted 8 times on the drive here." I pushed my phone face down. "He says I'm being unreasonable." Mom set 2 steaming mugs down and settled across from me. "And what does Selena say?" "Selena says she's tired of being the family disappointment." The words came out bitter. "Did you know Evelyn keeps a photo album of all the Thompson wedding ceremonies? 4 generations at St. Augustine's Cathedral. 4 perfect society page weddings. And now her son wants to get married in my backyard." Mom's eyes crinkled. "How terribly déclassé." "It's not funny, Mom." "No, it's not. But neither is letting that woman make you doubt yourself." She reached across the table, her hand covering mine. "You remember Jennifer's wedding? The 3-ring circus at the plaza?" I snorted. How could I forget? "And where is Jennifer now?" "Divorced, living in Los Angeles." I paused, seeing where she was going with this. "But that's different. This isn't about the wedding, not really. It's about respect, about being good enough." The back door creaked, making us both jump. Michael stood there, looking rumpled and exhausted. "I knocked," he said quietly. "But I heard voices." Mom stood, gathering her tea. "I'll leave you 2 to talk." "Linda, please stay," Michael said quickly. "I actually need both of you to hear this." Something in his tone made my stomach clench. "My parents want to host an engagement dinner next weekend," he continued, "at the country club. They've already invited everyone." "Everyone?" The word felt like glass in my mouth. "The hospital board, their charity committee friends, the mayor's wife." He wouldn't meet my eyes. They say it's tradition. Of course they do. I pushed back from the table, the chair legs scraping against linoleum. And let me guess, you told them yes without asking me first. Selena? No, Michael. This is exactly what they always do. They bulldoze right over what we want, what we planned, and you just let them. They're trying to welcome you into the family. By what? Parading me around like some circus act? Come see the middle-class girl who dared to marry a Thompson? Mom cleared her throat. Michael, would you like some tea? We both turned to stare at her. She met our looks calmly, already pulling down another mug. Chamomile, she continued. Good for frayed nerves. And while you drink it, maybe you can both remember that marriage isn't about winning battles. It's about choosing which hills to die on. Michael sank into a chair, accepting the mug. I love you, Selena, you know that. But they're my parents. And sometimes keeping the peace is worth what? I cut in. Worth watching your wife be humiliated? Worth letting your mother treat my family like we're beneath her? That's not fair. Neither is making me choose between my self-respect and your family's traditions. The silence stretched between us, broken only by the quiet tick of Mom's ancient wall clock. Finally, Michael set down his untouched tea. The dinner's next Saturday at 7, he said softly. Wear something appropriate. He left the same way he came, through the back door, leaving behind the scent of his cologne and the weight of his capitulation. Mom watched me carefully. What are you thinking? I picked up my phone, scrolling through contacts until I found the number I needed. I'm thinking it's time to call Jennifer, see if she and her father want to attend a little engagement dinner. Selena, Mom's voice held a warning. Revenge might feel good in the moment, but this isn't about revenge anymore, Mom. I met her gaze steadily. This is about showing Evelyn Thompson that her social circle isn't the only one that matters in this city. The phone rang once, twice, then Jennifer's familiar voice filled the line. Selena, do you know what time it is? Hey, Jen, remember how you always said you owed me one? Time to collect. The email from St. Augustine's Cathedral arrived 3 days before the engagement dinner. I almost deleted it, assuming it was a generic newsletter, until I saw the subject line, Thompson Carter Wedding Confirmation. My coffee mug slipped from my fingers, shattering against the kitchen floor. Honey? Michael called from upstairs. Everything okay? I stared at my screen, reading and rereading the confirmation details. Deposit paid, date secured, all arranged under the names Evelyn and Richard Thompson. Selena, did you know? My voice came out eerily calm as Michael appeared in the doorway. About the cathedral? He froze, color draining from his face. I can explain. They booked it behind our backs. I turned the laptop toward him. And you knew. Mom called yesterday. She said they were just holding the date in case. In case what? The calm shattered. In case I came to my senses? In case you finally convinced me to be the proper Thompson bride they want? They put down a non-refundable deposit. Of course they did. I laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. Because money is how they control everything. Everyone. Michael stepped carefully around the broken mug, reaching for me. Baby, please, they're trying to help. Stop. I backed away. Just stop defending them. For once in your life, Michael, see what they're really doing. What they're doing is giving us a beautiful wedding. No, what they're doing is making sure everyone knows that the Thompsons still control everything. That they can buy whatever they want, including their son's spine. The words hung between us like shrapnel. Michael's face hardened. That's not fair. Neither is this. I grabbed my phone, dialing Jennifer's number. But I'm done playing fair. Don't. Michael reached for the phone. Whatever you're planning, Jennifer answered on the second ring. Perfect timing. Dad just confirmed he can make Saturday's dinner. He's bringing the governor, too. They're both in town for that education bill vote. Michael's eyes widened. Wonderful, I said, holding his gaze. Evelyn will be thrilled. She loves a full guest list. After hanging up, I turned back to my laptop, forwarding the cathedral email to my mother-in-law with 2 words. Explain this. The governor? Michael's voice cracked. Selena, what are you doing? Giving your mother exactly what she wants, a society event worth talking about. I started gathering my purse and keys, though probably not the way she imagined. Where are you going? To buy a new dress for Saturday, something appropriate. The word tasted like acid. Your mother's always saying I need to dress more like a Thompson. Don't do this. He caught my arm. Please, we can talk to them together. Explain. Explain what? That I'm not good enough for their precious cathedral? That your mother needs to control every aspect of our lives? I pulled away. I tried talking. I tried compromising. Now I'm trying something else. Revenge won't fix this. No, I agreed, but it might teach them something about respect. My phone buzzed. Evelyn calling, right on cue. I let it ring. You know what the worst part is? I turned at the door. I actually believed you when you said you loved me more than your family's expectations. Guess we were both wrong about something. I left him standing there, surrounded by broken ceramic and broken promises. In my car, I finally checked Evelyn's voicemail. Selena, darling. Her voice trembled with barely controlled rage. We simply must discuss this misunderstanding about the cathedral and this guest list I'm hearing about. Call me immediately. I deleted the message and dialed Jennifer instead. Hey, I said when she answered. Remember that red Valentino dress you wore to the Emmys last year? Any chance I could borrow it for Saturday? The one that made page 6? It's yours. She paused. Are you sure about this? Mixing your in-laws with my father's political circle? Oh, I'm sure. I pulled into the parking lot of the same country club where the engagement dinner would be held. It's time the Thompsons learned they're not the only ones who know how to play social games. Through the windshield, I could see Evelyn's Mercedes already parked out front. Perfect. Time for a little preview of Saturday's entertainment. The country club's marble floors echoed with each step as I followed the maitre d' toward the private dining room. Through the doorway, I caught a glimpse of Evelyn's perfectly coiffed hair, her back straight as a ruler as she arranged place cards with military precision. I cleared my throat. Planning my engagement dinner without me? She startled, nearly dropping the card in her hand. Selena, I didn't expect. Clearly. I picked up one of the cards. Dr. and Mrs. Harrison Whitmore. Funny, I don't remember adding them to our guest list. Darling, please. Evelyn's smile stretched tight. Harrison is the chief of surgery. He's practically family. Like the governor? The color drained from her face. What? Oh, didn't Michael tell you? Jennifer Collins and her father are coming. The governor, too. I traced the gold lettering on the place card. I should probably help you rearrange these. Protocol can be so tricky with elected officials. You had no right. Like you had no right to book St. Augustine's? The door opened behind us, and Richard Thompson strode in, followed by Michael. They both froze, reading the tension in the room. What's going on? Richard demanded. Ask your wife about the cathedral. I turned to Michael. Or your son. Richard's expression darkened. Evelyn? It's tradition, she snapped, and I won't let some public school librarian's daughter turn our family's legacy into a backyard barbecue. The words hung in the air like smoke. Michael stepped forward, but I held up my hand. You know what's interesting about librarians? My voice remained steady. They teach you how to research, how to find information. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through emails, like the fact that St. Augustine's Cathedral was built with Collins family money. Senator Collins's great-grandfather donated the land. Evelyn's perfectly manicured nails dug into the tablecloth. Selena? Michael's voice cracked. Please don't do this. Do what? Play by Thompson rules? I met his gaze. Because that's what this is, isn't it? A game of influence and control. This isn't a game, Richard growled. This is about respect. Exactly. I placed Jennifer's place card at the head of the table. So let's talk about respect. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Need to see you. Important. Excuse me, I said, gathering my purse. I have another appointment, but don't worry about the seating arrangement, Evelyn. Jennifer's people will handle it. They're used to managing high-profile events. I made it halfway to Mom's house before the shaking started. Pull yourself together, I thought, gripping the steering wheel tighter. You wanted this. Mom was waiting on the porch, holding a worn leather photo album I'd never seen before. Sit, she said when I approached. There's something you need to know about the Thompsons. She opened the album to reveal a yellowed newspaper clipping. The headline read, Local Scandal, Thompson-Carter Wedding Called Off. Mom? Before I married your father, she said quietly, I was engaged to Richard Thompson. The world tilted sideways. What? Evelyn was the daughter of Richard's father's business partner. When she showed interest, Mom's fingers traced the headline. Well, some traditions are harder to break than others. Why didn't you tell me? Because you loved Michael. Because I thought maybe things had changed. She closed the album. But watching history repeat itself? My phone buzzed again. Michael calling. I ignored it. The engagement dinner, Mom continued. The cathedral. It's not about you, Selena. It's about Evelyn making sure everyone knows she won. Again. I stared at the album, at 30 years of buried history suddenly rising to the surface. So what do I do? That depends. Mom's eyes met mine. Are you fighting for your wedding, or are you fighting to prove something to Evelyn? Because only one of those battles is worth winning. The phone buzzed a third time. This time, it was Jennifer. The governor confirmed, her text read. Dad's bringing reporters from the society pages. Evelyn Thompson won't know what hit her. I looked at Mom, then back at the message, feeling the weight of 3 generations of Thompson-Carter history pressing down on my shoulders. I need to make a call, I said finally, reaching for my phone. But for the first time since this all began, I wasn't sure who I was really fighting anymore. Jennifer's Valentino dress hung in my closet like a red flag, taunting me. 2 hours until the engagement dinner, and my phone wouldn't stop buzzing with updates. The governor's security detail needed parking arrangements. Senator Collins's office wanted to confirm menu restrictions. Michael had left 8 voicemails I couldn't bring myself to hear. The doorbell rang. I opened it to find Richard Thompson standing there, looking older than I'd ever seen him. May I come in? I stepped aside, watching him survey my modest living room with new eyes. Now I understood his careful distance all these years, the way he'd never quite looked at me directly. Linda told you? It wasn't a question. About you and her? Yes. I crossed my arms. 30 years of Thompson traditions suddenly make a lot more sense. It wasn't like that. He ran a hand through his silver hair. Your mother wasn't good enough? Like mother, like daughter, right? You're nothing like Linda. His voice cracked. She walked away. You're fighting back. The leather album Mom had shown me sat on my coffee table. Richard picked it up, thumbing through pages until he found the newspaper clipping. Evelyn was pregnant, he said quietly. That's why, well, some choices aren't really choices at all. My carefully constructed anger wavered. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to understand what you're really fighting against. He set down the album. It's not about the cathedral or the country club. It's about fear. Fear of losing control, of change. He met my eyes. Evelyn's terrified of ending up like her mother, abandoned for someone younger, someone more genuine. The irony wasn't lost on me. So she made sure to strike first with Linda, and now she's doing it again with you. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. These are the cathedral receipts, the deposit, everything. I stared at the envelope. Why? Because I made the wrong choice 30 years ago. Because my son loves you the way I loved Linda. He placed the envelope on the table. And because sometimes tradition needs to break before it can change. My phone buzzed again. Jennifer, confirming the society photographers were in position. The dinner starts in 2 hours, I said. I know. Richard headed for the door, then paused. Whatever you decide, Selena, make sure you're fighting for the right reasons. Revenge might feel good tonight, but you'll have to live with the consequences tomorrow. After he left, I sat staring at the red dress, the envelope, my buzzing phone. Mom's words echoed. Are you fighting for your wedding, or are you fighting to prove something? I picked up my phone, dialing Michael's number. Selena? He answered on the first ring. Thank God, I've been trying to... Meet me at the oak tree. My voice shook. Where you proposed, now. The dinner's in 2 hours. Mom's already... Please, Michael, just meet me there. I grabbed my keys, leaving the Valentino dress hanging in the closet. As I drove to Mom's house, to our oak tree, my phone exploded with messages. Jennifer asking about the photographers. Evelyn demanding confirmation about place settings. The governor's office requesting arrival protocols. I turned off my phone. The sun was setting when I pulled up, casting long shadows across Mom's backyard. Michael stood under the oak tree, still in his work clothes, looking lost. I found out why your father hates my mother, I said, walking toward him, and why your mother hates me. Selena? But that's not why I asked you here. I took his hands. I need to know something, and I need the truth. Are you marrying me because you love me, or because I'm your rebellion against Thompson traditions? His fingers tightened around mine. What? Because in 2 hours, I can destroy your mother's social standing. I can make headlines that'll haunt your family for years. I felt tears building. Or we can get in your car right now, drive to the country club, and play our parts in another perfect Thompson wedding. But I need to know what we're really fighting for. The oak tree creaked above us, branches swaying in the evening breeze. Everything hinged on his next words. My revenge, our future, 3 generations of Thompson Carter history. Michael opened his mouth to answer, and I held my breath. Michael's silence stretched like a shadow across Mom's backyard. Finally, he pulled his hands from mine and walked to the oak tree, pressing his palm against its rough bark. I got my first job offer in Seattle, he said quietly. Right after college, 6 figures, corner office, everything I'd worked for. I stayed rooted in place, unsure where this was going. Mom said it would kill Dad if I left. The family business, the Thompson legacy. He turned back to me. So I stayed, like I always stay. Michael? But you? His laugh was hollow. You make me wish I'd gotten on that plane. My phone buzzed in my pocket, probably Jennifer, wondering where I was. The engagement dinner would start in less than an hour. That's not an answer, I said. Yes, it is. He stepped closer. I love you because you're everything they're afraid of. Everything I wish I could be. The words hit like a slap. So I am your rebellion. No, you're my wake-up call. He pulled out his own phone, scrolling through messages. Look at this. Mom sent 14 texts about the governor's seating arrangement. Dad's called 3 times about the cathedral deposit. They're trying to control us. And you're trying to destroy them. His voice hardened. Tell me, what's the difference? Before I could answer, headlights swept across the yard. A sleek black car pulled up, and Jennifer stepped out, wearing a designer suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary. There you are. She strode toward us, phone in hand. The photographers are in position. The governor's 2 minutes out, and your mother-in-law is having a meltdown about the place cards. This is going to be epic. Michael stared at her, then at me. You planned all this? I had help? I gestured to Jennifer, who was still scrolling through messages. Oh, and Dad convinced the Times to send their society columnist. Jennifer added, tomorrow's headline, Thompson family scandal, history repeats, pure gold. History repeats? Michael's voice cracked. What does that mean? I opened my mouth, but no words came. How could I explain about his father and my mother? About 30 years of buried secrets and repeated patterns? Selena? Jennifer prompted. We need to go. Everyone's waiting. Michael pulled out his car keys. You know what? Let them wait. What are you doing? Making a choice. He started walking toward his car. I'm done being the dutiful Thompson son. Done watching everyone I love tear each other apart over some twisted idea of family honor. Michael, wait. You want revenge on my mother? Fine. Go to that dinner. Let Jennifer and her father and their reporters destroy 30 years of my family's reputation. He yanked open his car door. But don't expect me to stand there and watch. Jennifer touched my arm. The governor's already at the club. If we leave now... Stop. I shrugged her off. Just stop. The oak tree loomed above us, witness to another Thompson Carter crossroads. In my pocket, the cathedral receipts Richard had given me felt like they were burning a hole. What are you doing? Jennifer demanded as I pulled out my phone. Choosing my battle. I dialed Senator Collins' office, hands shaking. This is Selena Thompson. I need to cancel the governor's appearance tonight. Family emergency. Are you insane? Jennifer grabbed for my phone. Do you know how many strings Dad pulled? I know exactly what strings you pulled. I stepped back, and I'm done dancing on them. Michael stood by his car, watching, waiting. You're making a mistake, Jennifer said. They'll never respect you now. I looked at the oak tree, remembering Mom's words about battles worth winning, remembering Richard's warning about living with consequences. Maybe, I said, but at least I'll respect myself. I walked toward Michael's car, leaving Jennifer standing in my mother's backyard, surrounded by 30 years of Thompson Carter history and a revenge plot that suddenly felt as hollow as Evelyn's social pretenses. Where are we going? Michael asked as I slid into the passenger seat. I don't know. I pulled out my phone one last time, typing a message to Evelyn. The engagement dinner is canceled, but we need to talk about Linda, about Richard, about everything. But I know where we're not going, I added as Michael started the engine. And sometimes that's enough. Michael parked in front of the Thompson estate at midnight. The house loomed dark except for the study windows, where warm light spilled across manicured lawns. Of course Evelyn would be waiting. You don't have to do this, Michael said. Yes, I do. I clutched the leather album from Mom in one hand, the cathedral receipts in the other. Some stories need to end differently. The front door opened before we reached it. Evelyn stood in her designer dress, makeup perfect despite the hour. Behind her, Richard sat in his leather chair, looking smaller than I remembered. The governor sends his regrets, I said, stepping inside, along with half of the hospital board, I imagine. Evelyn's smile was brittle. Quite the spectacle you arranged. Learned from the best. I placed the album on Richard's desk, though probably not as spectacular as 30 years ago. The color drained from Evelyn's face. Richard stood abruptly. That's enough. No, it's not. I opened the album to the newspaper clipping. Tell him, Evelyn. Tell Michael how you made sure Richard chose the right Carter woman. Michael picked up the article, his hands shaking. Dad, what is this? Ancient history, Evelyn snapped. Like the cathedral deposit? I pulled out the receipts. Or did you think forcing history to repeat itself would somehow make it right? You have no idea. I know exactly what I'm talking about. My voice stayed steady, the same way you knew exactly what you were doing when you got pregnant right after Richard proposed to my mother. The silence that followed was deafening. Michael stared at his father, who couldn't meet his eyes. Is it true? Michael's voice cracked. It was complicated, Richard started. It was necessary, Evelyn cut in. The Thompsons needed control. I stepped closer, just like now, but here's what's going to happen instead. I pulled an envelope from my purse, the one Jennifer had given me, with the photos and story ready for tomorrow's papers. Tomorrow, there's either going to be a scandal in the society pages about Thompson family history, or there's going to be nothing at all. I set the envelope down. Your choice. You're blackmailing us? Evelyn's voice rose. I'm offering you what you never gave my mother. A choice. Richard picked up the envelope with trembling fingers. What do you want? The wedding happens in Mom's backyard. No cathedral, no society circus. I met Evelyn's gaze. And you both show up with genuine smiles and welcome me to the family. Really welcome me. Or, Evelyn challenged, or tomorrow everyone learns how the perfect Thompson dynasty was built on destroying my mother's happiness. I turned to Michael. Your call. Michael looked at his parents, then at the newspaper clipping, then at me. Something shifted in his expression. No, he said quietly. What? No deals, no threats. He took my hand. We're getting married in Linda's backyard because that's what we want. And if you can't accept that, he faced his parents, then don't come at all. Evelyn sank into a chair, her perfect posture crumbling. Richard stared at the album, at 30 years of carefully maintained appearances. I loved her, he whispered. Linda, I really did. I know, I said softly. That's what makes it worse. Evelyn's hand found Richard's, squeezing tight. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes, not of scandal or social ruin, but of history truly repeating itself. The backyard wedding stays, she said finally. But, she pulled out her checkbook, let us at least help make it beautiful, the way it should have been 30 years ago. She wrote a number that made my eyes widen, then held out the check. This isn't about buying forgiveness, she added quickly. It's about choosing a different ending. I looked at the check, then at Michael, then at the envelope of damaging photos. Revenge had brought me here, but something else would have to lead me out. Okay, I said, taking the check but leaving the envelope. Let's write a new story. Michael squeezed my hand as dawn began to break outside, painting the Thompson estate in new light. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying the past. It's about building a different future. The oak tree in Mom's backyard wore strings of fairy lights, like stars caught in its branches. White chairs dotted the lawn, and mason jars filled with wildflowers lined the makeshift aisle. Simple, perfect, exactly what we'd wanted from the start. I watched from the kitchen window as Evelyn adjusted a flower arrangement, her designer dress collecting grass stains as she knelt in the dirt. Richard stood nearby, deep in conversation with Mom, their body language careful but no longer strained. Quite a transformation, Jennifer said behind me. She'd arrived early wearing a simple sundress instead of her usual red carpet attire. Though Dad's disappointed about missing his photo op. Some stories are better left untold. I turned to face her. Thank you for understanding. She shrugged, but her eyes were kind. You know, I always envied how you stood your ground. Even back in school, you knew exactly who you were. Not exactly. I fingered the check in my pocket. Evelyn's peace offering, still uncashed. Sometimes you have to lose yourself to find out who you really are. Through the window, I watched Michael arrive, carrying boxes of champagne. He paused to kiss his mother's cheek, and Evelyn's surprise melted into a genuine smile. "You're not going to tell me what happened that night at their house, are you?" Jennifer asked. "Some bridges are better rebuilt than burned." Mom appeared in the doorway, holding a small package wrapped in aged paper. "Ready?" I nodded, following her upstairs to her bedroom. She placed the package in my hands. "I was going to wear this," she said softly, "the day I almost became a Thompson." Inside was a delicate pearl hairpin, its silver tarnished but beautiful. "Mom, the past doesn't have to poison the future." She tucked the pin into my hair. "Sometimes it just shows us where to build stronger foundations." The ceremony passed in a blur of sunset light and gentle breezes. No society photographers, no political connections, just family learning to become family. When Michael kissed me under the oak tree, Evelyn was crying. Real tears this time, not the carefully manufactured ones I'd seen at countless charity events. At the reception, Richard clinked his glass for a toast. My stomach tightened, remembering all the Thompson traditions we'd broken. 30 years ago, he began, his voice wavering, I made a choice based on fear, on tradition, on other people's expectations. His eyes found Mom in the crowd, then moved to me. Today, my son chose love instead, and in doing so, he taught his old man that sometimes the best traditions are the ones we dare to break. Evelyn stood, taking his hand. "To new beginnings," she added, "and to the daughter we almost lost before we truly found her." Later, as fireflies replaced the setting sun, I found the uncashed check in my pocket. Michael watched as I tore it carefully down the middle. "You sure?" he asked. "Some debts can't be paid with money." I scattered the pieces like confetti. "And some shouldn't be paid at all." Mom and Evelyn sat together at a corner table, heads bent over the leather album, not erasing the past, but finally facing it. Richard watched them from a distance, his expression a complex mix of regret and relief. "Think they'll be okay?" Michael asked. "I think they'll be better." I leaned into him, watching our families slowly become one. Sometimes revenge isn't about making someone pay. Sometimes it's about making them see. Jennifer caught my eye from across the yard and raised her glass in a silent toast. She understood now why I'd canceled her father's appearance, why I'd chosen this simple celebration over social warfare. Some victories aren't won through destruction. The oak tree swayed gently overhead, its lights twinkling like the stars emerging above. 30 years of Thompson Carter history whispered through its leaves, but the sound was different now. Not a reminder of what was lost, but a promise of what could be built. I felt the pearl pin in my hair, carrying both my mother's past and my future. Some battles are won not by fighting, but by finding the courage to lay down arms and build something new from the ashes of what might have been.
The screen of my husband's old phone illuminates my face in the darkness of our bedroom closet. 3 years after his death, and here I am, clutching his iPhone like it holds the answers to questions I never thought to ask. I'm Elizabeth, Liz to those who know me well, and what I'm about to discover will shatter everything I thought I knew about my family. Found something interesting? Nathan's voice cuts through the silence, making me jump. My eldest son leans against the doorframe, his silhouette blocking the hallway light. There's something in his tone that sends a chill down my spine. Just going through some old things. I slip the phone into my pocket, but Nathan's eyes follow the movement, thinking about donating them. He steps into the closet, too close for comfort. After 3 years seems sudden. Nothing sudden about grief, Nathan. I move past him, forcing casualness into my steps. Sometimes it takes years to let go. Or to start digging. His words follow me down the hallway. In the kitchen, I pour myself a glass of wine with trembling hands. The texts I found moments ago swim through my mind. Conversations between James, my late husband, and Mark Reynolds, his supposed best friend. Numbers, accounts, threats. My phone buzzes. Lucas, my younger son. Mom, you okay? Nathan just called me. Said you were acting weird. I stare at the message. Of course Nathan would call Lucas. He always does when he's worried I might discover something. I type back. All good. Having dinner with Sarah tomorrow. Love you. Sarah, my sister-in-law, needs to see these messages. As a lawyer, she'll understand their implications better than I can. But there's something else gnawing at me. Nathan's name appeared in those texts too many times to be coincidental. The doorbell rings, startling me from my thoughts. Through the peephole, I see Emily, Nathan's fiancée, standing on my porch with that perfect smile of hers. Elizabeth! She hugs me as I open the door, her designer perfume overwhelming. I was just passing by and thought I'd check on you. Nathan mentioned you seemed upset earlier. I force a smile. That's sweet of you both, but I'm fine. Just sorting through some memories. Of course. Her eyes dart past me into the house. Mind if I use your bathroom? These pregnancy hormones, you know. I gesture toward the hallway, watching as she disappears inside. My future daughter-in-law, carrying my first grandchild, and yet something about her presence here feels calculated. When she emerges, her smile seems different. Thanks. Oh, and Nathan asked me to grab that old phone of James's if you still had it. He mentioned wanting to check for some old family photos. My hand instinctively touches my pocket. I haven't come across it yet. Still lots of boxes to go through. No worries, she chirps, but her eyes narrow slightly. I'm sure it'll turn up. After she leaves, I pull out James's phone again. The last message from Mark catches my eye. N knows everything. We need to move faster. Your wife can't find out about the transfers. My fingers hover over Sarah's number. Tomorrow suddenly feels too far away. But as I reach for my keys, another text from Nathan appears. Mom, Emily said you seemed tired. Get some rest. We can talk about Dad's things tomorrow. I set the phone down, my mind racing. They're watching me, trying to control what I discover and when. But they don't know what I've already found, or what I'm capable of doing with that information. 3 years of grieving my husband, and now I'm about to uncover just how many lies died with him, and how many are still living in my own home. Sarah's law office feels too sterile for the conversation we're about to have. I slide James's phone across her desk, my finger hovering over the messages that have haunted me since yesterday. Before you read these, I say, I need to know if attorney-client privilege applies to sisters-in-law. Sarah's eyes narrow as she picks up the phone. It does when I'm officially retained. She pulls out a notepad, writes 1 on it, and slides it to me with a pen. Sign here. I do, and watch her face as she scrolls through the messages. Her professional mask slips for just a moment, showing something between shock and anger. Nathan's involved in this? She asks, though it's not really a question. That's what I need to find out. I lean forward. Emily showed up at my house last night asking for that phone, said Nathan wanted it for family photos. Sarah's laugh is sharp. Family photos. Right. She sets the phone down carefully. These messages suggest James and Mark were moving substantial amounts of money. The timestamps. She pauses, checking dates. These continued right up until James's accident. The word accident hangs between us. I've never questioned it before, but now. My phone buzzes. Nathan. Mom, we need to talk. Coming over for dinner tonight. Important business opportunity to discuss. He's coming over tonight, I tell Sarah. Wants to discuss business. Don't let him know what you've found. Sarah starts writing rapidly. We need to track these transfers before... The office door opens. Mark Reynolds stands there, his usual confident smile faltering when he sees me. Sarah, I had a quick question about... He trails off, his eyes fixed on James's phone on the desk. Mark. I stand slowly. What a coincidence. Elizabeth. He recovers quickly. Too quickly. How are you holding up? Nathan mentioned you've been going through James's things. Of course Nathan mentioned it. Did he tell you what I found? Mark's smile doesn't waver, but his hand tightens on the doorknob. I should come back later, Sarah. Elizabeth, always good to see you. After he leaves, Sarah's typing furiously on her computer. He'll warn Nathan. Good. I gather my things. Let him. I want to see what story they come up with. That evening, I'm chopping vegetables when Nathan arrives. He brings wine, expensive wine, and Emily trails behind him, already playing with her engagement ring like she always does when she's nervous. Mom, Nathan starts, pouring 3 glasses. We need to talk about Dad's estate. What about it? I keep chopping, not looking up. I've been thinking about his legacy, about building something that would make him proud. Nathan's voice has that smooth quality it gets when he's pitching something. I've found investors willing to back a new venture, but we need initial capital. How much? I ask, finally looking at him. Just what's in the trust, temporarily. He smiles. James's smile, but somehow wrong. It's a sure thing, Mom. Emily's father's firm is backing it. Emily nods enthusiastically. Daddy says it's the opportunity of a lifetime. I set down the knife. Like the opportunity Mark Reynolds discussed with Dad? The silence is absolute. Nathan's smile freezes, then transforms into something harder. You've been talking to Mark? No. I reach for my phone, pull up the messages. But Dad was. Right until the day he died. Emily stands abruptly. I should give you two some privacy. Stay. Nathan's voice is sharp. Mom's obviously confused about some old business dealings. The only thing I'm confused about, I say, is whether you started helping them steal from us before or after your father died. Nathan's glass hits the counter hard enough to crack. You have no idea what you're talking about. Dad's business was complicated. Was the accident complicated too? The words escape before I can stop them. Nathan's face goes white, then red. How dare you? I loved Dad. Everything I'm doing for this family. Nathan, Emily tugs at his arm, maybe we should go. He shakes her off. No, Mom needs to understand. Dad's way of doing things, your way of doing things, it's not enough. The world doesn't work like that anymore. I look at my son, really look at him, and for the first time, I see a stranger. Get out of my house. Mom, get out. Both of you. After they leave, I text Sarah. It's worse than we thought. Nathan knows everything. Her response comes quickly. Don't confront him again. I'm pulling the trust records tomorrow. And Elizabeth, be careful. Mark's been asking questions about James's accident report. Lucas's studio apartment smells of turpentine and coffee when I arrive with Sarah's files. He takes one look at my face and clears his easel from the kitchen table. You found something bad, he says, not a question. I spread out the bank statements Sarah uncovered. Your brother and Mark Reynolds have been systematically draining Dad's estate for months, even before. My hands shake as I point to a series of transfers. The last one was made an hour before the accident. Lucas studies the papers, his artist's hands tracing the numbers. Nathan always said Dad promised to fund his business ventures. These aren't business ventures. I pull out another document. Sarah traced the money. It's being funneled through shell companies, then disappearing into offshore accounts. Mom, Lucas's voice is gentle. What aren't you telling me? Before I can answer, my phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. Meet me at James's grave. Noon. Come alone. Mark. Lucas reads it over my shoulder. You can't go. I have to. I gather the papers. Mark knows something about the accident. I saw his face when I mentioned it to Nathan. Then I'm coming with you. No. I touch his cheek, remembering when he was small enough to carry. I need you to do something else. Go to Emily's father's office. Find out what you can about their investment firm. Emily's father? Lucas frowns. What does he have to do with this? Nathan said he's backing the venture, but according to Sarah's research, his firm declared bankruptcy 3 months ago. The cemetery is empty when I arrive, except for Mark standing at James's grave. He looks older than I remember, haunted. Elizabeth. He doesn't turn around. I was hoping you wouldn't dig this deep. Tell me about the accident. It wasn't supposed to happen that way. His voice cracks. James found out what we were doing. He was going to expose everything. My world tilts. What are you saying? Nathan came to me first, 6 months before, had this brilliant investment scheme, needed startup capital. Mark laughs bitterly. I saw an opportunity, used him to access James's accounts, but James figured it out. And you killed him. No, Mark turns, face ashen. God, no. We just needed him to back off. Nathan said he'd talk to him, make him understand. The brake lines, that wasn't part of the plan. The ground seems to sway beneath my feet. Nathan tampered with the brakes? He said it would just scare James, force him to listen. But the road that night? Mark stops, looking past me. Elizabeth, behind you. I turn to see Nathan standing there, Emily beside him. His face is a mask I don't recognize. I wondered how long it would take you to crack, Mark. Nathan's voice is ice. Mum, you shouldn't believe everything you hear. Mark's been unstable since Dad died. Guilt does funny things to people. Nathan, Emily tugs his sleeve. We should go. No. He shakes her off. Mum needs to understand. Everything I did, everything Dad died trying to stop, it was all for us. The family legacy he was too scared to build. You killed him. The words taste like ash. Your own father. I tried to reason with him. Nathan's composure cracks. He wouldn't listen, just like you won't listen. The money's gone, Mom. All of it. And if you don't help me fix this, Emily's father will destroy what's left of our family's reputation. My father? Emily steps back. Nathan, what are you talking about? The bankruptcy was a front, he snarls. Your father's been laundering money through my companies. If I don't deliver, he'll expose everything. I watch my son unravel, this stranger wearing Nathan's face. Behind him, Emily backs away, horror dawning in her eyes. Mark stands frozen at James's grave. My phone buzzes. A text from Lucas. Mom, get out of there. Emily's father isn't bankrupt. He's FBI. They've been investigating Nathan and Mark for months. I look up to see Nathan reading the same message over Emily's shoulder. Our eyes meet, and in that moment, I see the little boy who once needed me to check under his bed for monsters. But now I know where the real monsters are. Nathan, I say softly, what have you done? The FBI office is sterile and cold, much like the truth I'm about to share. Agent Sanders, Emily's father, sits across from me, his expression unreadable as Sarah arranges documents on the table between us. Mrs. Turner, he says, we need to discuss your options. Options. Such a clean word for such a messy situation. You mean whether I'll testify against my own son? Nathan's involvement goes deeper than you know. He slides a folder across the table. These transactions suggest James's death wasn't the impulsive act Mark described. My hands won't stop shaking as I open the folder. Insurance policies, offshore accounts, a second I've never seen before. He planned it, I whisper, months in advance. Mom. Lucas's voice from the doorway makes me turn. He looks exhausted, paint still under his fingernails from his latest piece. Emily's here. She enters like a ghost, her engagement ring conspicuously absent. Elizabeth, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Not at first. When did you figure it out? The question comes out sharper than I intend. 3 months ago. She won't meet my eyes. Nathan started talking about James's accident differently, like it was necessary. When I told Dad, you were already working with the FBI. The pieces click into place. That's why you pushed for the pregnancy announcement. We needed Nathan to accelerate his plans. Agent Sanders' voice is professional, detached. The pregnancy gave him a reason to push for access to the remaining trust funds. My laugh sounds hollow even to me. And I thought he was just being an eager father. Sarah touches my arm. Elizabeth, You need to decide. Nathan's meeting with Mark tonight. The FBI can move in, but your testimony would destroy him. I finish for her. But he destroyed himself the moment he decided to kill his father. My phone buzzes. Nathan. Mom, I can explain everything. Meet me at the house. Just you. Please. I show the message to Agent Sanders. He nods to someone outside the room and suddenly there's activity everywhere. Agents donning vests, checking weapons. Mrs. Turner, Agent Sanders says, we can handle this without you. You don't have to. Yes, I do. I stand, feeling older than my years. He's still my son. The drive home feels eternal. FBI vehicles shadow me discreetly, but I've never felt more alone. Lucas wanted to come, but this is between Nathan and me. It always has been, really. This dance of expectations and disappointments. The house is dark when I arrive, except for the kitchen light. Through the window, I see Nathan sitting at the counter, head in his hands. For a moment, he looks 16 again, worried about college applications and basketball tryouts. Then he looks up and the illusion shatters. You're wearing a wire. It's not a question. Yes. He nods slowly. Did you ever wonder why Dad never let me into the business? Why he always kept me at arm's length? He was protecting you. He was controlling me. Nathan's fist hits the counter. Everything I did was wrong, too aggressive, too risky. But look what his caution got him, a middling company and a legacy of mediocrity. It got him killed, the words hang between us, by his own son. I gave him a chance to understand. Nathan's voice turns pleading. Mum, everything I did was to make us stronger, to build something worthy of the Turner name. And Emily? Was she part of the plan? Something flickers in his eyes. Where is she? With her father, at the FBI office. The change is instant. Nathan's face hardens and I see James's killer emerge. You're working with them. No, Nathan, I'm your mother. I'm trying to save what's left of you. Save me. He laughs, and it's a terrible sound. Mom, there's nothing left to save, but I can still save you. From what's coming next. His hand moves toward his jacket, and suddenly I understand. This isn't about explanation or redemption. It's about silencing the last witness who could destroy everything he's built. Nathan, I say softly, backing toward the door. What would your father think? Let's ask him. He pulls out the gun. After all, you'll be seeing him soon. The gallery walls are stark white, making Lucas's paintings burn with even more intensity. I watch him adjust the lighting on his centerpiece. A fractured family portrait where every face is turned away except one. My face staring out from the canvas with eyes that know too much. The opening's tomorrow, Lucas says, not turning around. Nathan will come. The FBI will be here too. I step closer to the painting. Hidden in plain sight, just like the truth was all these years. Mom! Lucas finally faces me. You don't have to be here. Sarah can handle... I need to see his face. My voice sounds strange even to me. When everything falls apart, I need to watch it happen. My phone buzzes. Mark, Nathan knows about tomorrow. He's not planning to surrender quietly. Before I can respond, Emily appears at the gallery entrance, her face pale. Elizabeth, we have a problem. Nathan's been to see my father. What did he offer? Everything. She moves closer, lowering her voice. Names, dates, accounts, everything about Mark's operation, in exchange for immunity. The betrayal shouldn't surprise me anymore, but it still cuts deep. And your father? Refused. But Nathan... She glances at the painting. He laughed, said if he's going down, he's taking everyone with him, including Lucas. My blood runs cold. What does Lucas have to do with this? The gallery. Emily's hands twist together. Nathan's been laundering money through art sales. He's been using Lucas's name, his reputation, for months. Lucas drops his tools with a clatter. That's why those collectors were so eager to pre-purchase everything. They weren't real buyers. No. Emily looks away. They were Nathan's partners. Tomorrow night, when the sales go through, Lucas would be implicated in everything. The pieces click into place with horrible clarity. Nathan's using his own brother as a fall guy. My phone buzzes again. Sarah. Police found Mark. He's dead. Apparent suicide, but nothing about this family is what it appears to be anymore. Cancel the opening, I tell Lucas. We'll find another way to... No. Lucas's voice is firm. This ends tomorrow. All of it. He turns to the painting, and I see James in his stance, in his determination. The same determination that got his father killed. Lucas, please. My voice breaks. I can't lose both my sons. You already lost one. He touches the canvas, tracing the turned-away faces. The brother I knew died the day he decided to kill Dad. What's left is just... shadow. Emily's phone chimes. Her face goes ashen as she reads. Nathan's just posted online. He's exposed everything, the money laundering, Mark's death, all of it. But he's twisted it, made it look like Lucas was the mastermind, using his art to hide the operation. The evidence... I start, but she cuts me off. Doesn't matter, the story's out there now. By tomorrow night, everyone will believe Lucas is guilty. I look at my younger son, still standing before his work. The gallery lights cast his shadow long and dark against the white walls, like a prophecy of what's to come. Then we change the ending, I say, an idea forming. Nathan wants to destroy his brother's reputation. Let's give him exactly what he expects. Mom? Lucas turns, wary. The opening continues as planned, but instead of your usual pieces, I gesture to the family portrait. We tell the real story, every painting, every piece, the truth about Nathan, about James, about all of it. He'll try to stop us, Emily warns. I'm counting on it. I pull out my phone, texting Agent Sanders. Nathan wants an audience for his revenge. Tomorrow night, he'll have one. Lucas studies me for a long moment. This could destroy everything, the gallery, my career. Your father died protecting this family's secrets. I touch his cheek. Maybe it's time we stopped protecting them, too. As I leave the gallery, I pass the family portrait one last time. In the harsh lighting, the turned-away faces seem to mock me, while my painted eyes stare back with a challenge I finally understand. Tomorrow we all face forward. Tomorrow we all see the truth, even if it kills us. The gallery buzzes with voices and champagne glasses, a perfect facade of normalcy. I watch from near Lucas's centerpiece as Sarah positions the FBI agents among the crowd. Agent Sanders stands by the entrance, Emily at his side, both pretending to admire a particularly haunting piece. Nathan as a child, his face half in shadow. He's here, Lucas murmurs, appearing at my elbow. Nathan moves through the crowd like smoke, greeting people with that perfect smile of his. The smile that convinced everyone, including me, for so long. He pauses at each painting, his expression growing darker as he realizes what Lucas has done. Turned every canvas into a piece of evidence, every brush stroke an accusation. Quite a show, Nathan says, reaching us. Though I expected more subtlety from you, little brother. Like the subtlety of framing me for money laundering. Lucas doesn't back down. Speaking of money, Nathan's eyes find mine. The transfers are already processing. By midnight, the gallery's accounts will be empty. Every sale, every commission, gone, along with proof of where it all really went. My hand tightens on my glass. It's over, Nathan. The FBI are too late. He smiles, genuine this time. Did you really think I'd come here without insurance? Check your phone, Mom. The text message makes my blood freeze. Video footage of James the night he died, arguing with Nathan in his office. The timestamp matches the accident perfectly. I've set it to release to every major news outlet at midnight, Nathan continues. Dad's last moments, proof that Lucas knew everything about the money laundering, the grieving artist corrupted by greed, they'll love it. That video's edited, I say, but my voice shakes. Prove it. Nathan sips his champagne. Oh, wait, you can't, because the original footage died with Mark. Funny how evidence has a way of disappearing. Lucas steps forward, but I grab his arm. Across the room, I see Agent Sanders moving closer, Emily's face tight with tension. You'd destroy your own brother? I ask. Everything he's worked for? Like Dad tried to destroy me. Nathan's mask slips, showing something raw beneath. He chose Lucas over me every time, the good son, the artist, while I had to fight for every scrap of approval. So you killed him. I freed us. Nathan's voice drops lower. From his control, his disappointment. I could have freed you too, Mom, if you'd just trusted me. Trust you. The laugh tears from my throat. You murdered your father, set up your brother. How many more people have to suffer for your freedom? Just one more. He sets down his glass. At midnight, when those transfers complete, Lucas's career ends. The scandal will destroy him. Unless what? Unless you confess. Nathan's eyes gleam. To everything. The money laundering, Mark's death, all of it. A mother's desperate attempt to protect her favourite son, using the other as a scapegoat. The press will eat it up. The gallery seems to spin around me. You want me to confess to your crimes? I want you to choose, finally, between your sons. He checks his watch. You have 10 minutes before the video releases. 10 minutes to save Lucas's future. I look at Lucas, seeing James in his eyes, in his strength. Then at Nathan, my firstborn, now a stranger wearing my son's face. Mom, don't, Lucas whispers. But I'm already stepping forward, reaching for Nathan's phone. He lets me take it, that triumphant smile growing. Agent Sanders, I call out, my voice carrying across the gallery. I believe this is what you've been waiting for. Nathan's smile freezes as FBI agents converge. The phone's locked. You can't. James taught me something you never learned, I say, watching his face. Always have a backup plan. I press my thumb to the phone's scanner. It unlocks instantly. Dad gave me access to everything after he discovered what you were planning, I tell him, including this phone. The real video is here, showing exactly what happened that night. Nathan lunges for the phone, but it's too late. On every screen in the gallery, the truth begins to play, and I watch my son's perfect world crumble, knowing that in saving one son, I've lost the other forever. The holding cell's fluorescent lights make Nathan look older, harder. I sit across from him while Sarah stands by the door, her legal pad untouched. The DA's offering a deal, I say, sliding the papers across the metal table. In exchange for information about Mark's death. Nathan's laugh is hollow. Still trying to save me, Mom? After everything? I'm trying to understand. My hands rest flat on the table, steady now. Mark's confession was found in his car. He claimed he manipulated you, used your ambition. Used me? Nathan leans forward, chains rattling. I used him. Just like I used Emily, used Lucas's gallery. Dad taught me well. Everything's a tool if you know how to grip it. Your father never... My father was weak. His fist hits the table. He had everything, connections, power, respect, and he wasted it on morality. On Lucas's art. On your perfect little family. Sarah steps forward. Nathan, think carefully about what you say next. Why? His eyes lock onto mine. Because it might hurt Mom's feelings? Because it might ruin what's left of our family name? He laughs again. Tell me, Mom, how does it feel knowing you raised a murderer? The question hits like a physical blow, but I keep my voice steady. I raised 2 sons. One of them killed his father. The other one helped catch him. Lucas, Nathan spits the name. The golden child. Did he tell you he knew? About the money laundering? About Emily working with the FBI? He knew for months. Watched me dig my own grave. He tried to warn you. He tried to control me. Just like Dad did. Nathan's mask cracks completely. Do you know what Dad said that night? That I was a disappointment, that everything I touched turned toxic. So I showed him just how toxic I could be. My hand moves to my throat, where James's wedding ring hangs on a chain. You tampered with his brakes. I gave him a choice. Nathan's voice drops to a whisper. Back off, or take the consequences. He chose wrong. And Mark? Outlived his usefulness. Started having regrets, talking about confessions. A cold smile. Amazing how guilty people get when they realize they're working with a murderer. Sarah's pen scratches across her pad. Nathan notices his smile widening. Writing this all down, Aunt Sarah? Good. Make sure you include how Mum's perfect parenting created this monster. How Dad's constant disappointment shaped me. How Lucas's talent poisoned everything. No, I stand slowly. You don't get to blame us for your choices. Choices? He laughs. Like the choice you made at the gallery, sacrificing one son to save the other. I chose justice. You chose Lucas. Like always. His chains rattle as he stands. But here's what you don't know, Mom. That video you found, the one that exposed everything, I wanted you to find it. My breath catches. What? Dad's phone, the texts, Emily's involvement, all of it was bait. I needed you to play your part, to be so focused on saving Lucas that you wouldn't see the bigger picture. Sarah steps forward. Nathan, stop talking. But he continues, eyes fever bright. While you were all focused on the gallery, on the money laundering, my real operation was moving offshore. Everything Dad built, everything he protected, it's gone. And the best part? It's all legal. Because you, Mom, signed it all away 3 months ago. The memory hits me. Papers Nathan had me sign during Lucas's first gallery showing, when I was distracted with pride and champagne. Power of attorney, he says softly. You gave me everything, and now I own what's left of Dad's legacy, what's left of his precious reputation. Sarah's already on her phone, but I can see in her face it's too late. I look at my son, this stranger wearing Nathan's face, and finally understand. This wasn't about money or power or even revenge. It was about destroying everything James loved, piece by piece, starting with me. The prison visiting room smells of industrial cleaner and stale coffee. Nathan sits across from me, orange jumpsuit stark against his pale skin. This isn't a scheduled visit. He requested it, his first contact since the sentencing 6 weeks ago. You look tired, he says. Selling a company takes work. I keep my voice neutral. Even one that's been gutted. Is that why you're here? To tell me how you salvaged Dad's legacy? I'm here because you asked. I study his face, searching for my son beneath the stranger's mask. Though I don't know why. Nathan's fingers drum the table, a nervous habit from childhood. Emily's pregnant, for real this time. The news hits like a physical blow. How far along? 4 months. She didn't know during everything. He won't meet my eyes. She's moving away, doesn't want the baby growing up with my name. I think of James, of all the grandchildren he'll never meet. What do you want from me, Nathan? The truth. His voice cracks slightly. Did Dad ever say he was proud of me? Even once? He was proud of who you could have been. The words taste bitter. But you chose to become someone else. Someone stronger. Someone alone. Silence stretches between us. Through the window, I watch Lucas in the parking lot, waiting by the car. He's sold every painting from that gallery showing except one, the family portrait with the turned-away faces. Lucas's new gallery opens next week, I say, in Dad's old office building. Nathan's laugh is hollow. Fitting. The prodigal son inherits everything. He inherited nothing. I sold everything you left us, donated it all. Now he looks at me. Your father's legacy isn't buildings or bank accounts. It's the choice between right and wrong. The choice you failed to make. And you? His eyes narrow. Did you make the right choice, turning in your own son? I chose justice, like your father would have. Justice? Nathan leans back. Tell me, Mom, was it justice when you signed those papers without reading them? When you let your pride in Lucas blind you to what I was doing? When you... Stop! I stand, my chair scraping loud against the floor. You don't get to rewrite this story. Your father is dead because of your choices. Mark is dead because of your choices. That's your legacy, Nathan. Not Dad's company, not Lucas's success. Just choices and consequences. He's silent for a long moment. The baby's a boy. The words hang between us like smoke. I reach into my bag, pull out an envelope. What's this? Letters. From your father to you. He wrote them every birthday, never sent them. I placed them on the table. I found them in his study last week. Nathan's hand shakes as he touches the envelope. Why show me these now? Because you need to understand what you destroyed. I move toward the door. And because that baby deserves to know there was good in his family, once. Mom, his voice stops me. Will you tell Lucas about the baby? Yes. Will you tell him about these letters? I look back at my son, seeing for the first time a glimmer of uncertainty in his eyes. No. Some secrets should stay buried with their consequences. Outside, Lucas helps me into the car. You okay? I touch James's ring around my neck. Drive to the gallery. I want to see that painting again. At the gallery, I stand before the family portrait. But now, in the harsh light of truth, I see what I missed before. The turned-away faces aren't hiding. They're looking towards something in the distance, something beyond the frame. While my painted eyes stare straight ahead, seeing everything, bearing witness. Just like James would have wanted. Lucas touches my shoulder. Ready to go home? Yes, I say, turning away from the past and its shadows. I'm ready. Behind us, the painting watches with knowing eyes, holding its secrets close, just as our family always has. Just as we always will.
The shrimp scampi glistened on my plate, innocent and deadly. I stared at it, my throat already starting to close up, while my mother-in-law, Evelyn, beamed from across the table with what anyone else might mistake for genuine warmth. My name is Victoria, and I was about to find out just how far a mother would go to keep her son. I specifically asked about shellfish, I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. The first hints of panic crept in as I felt the familiar tingle on my lips. You promised me it was safe. Ryan's hand found mine under the table, squeezing gently. Mom, you knew about Victoria's allergy. We've talked about this dozens of times. Evelyn's perfectly manicured fingers fluttered to her chest. Oh dear, did I forget? I could have sworn you said it was just a mild sensitivity. You've been so particular about everything since the pregnancy. The EpiPen. Where was my damn EpiPen? I fumbled through my purse, the room starting to spin. The baby kicked, as if sensing my distress. It's never been mild, Ryan snapped, pushing back from the table. Where's your EpiPen, Vic? Martin, my father-in-law, watched the scene unfold with quiet horror from his end of the table. Nathan, Ryan's brother, seemed more interested in his wine glass than the fact that I was struggling to breathe. I must have left it in the car, I wheezed. Stupid mistake. Never trust Evelyn's cooking. How many times had Claire warned me? I'll get it, Ryan said, already halfway to the door. Really, Victoria, Evelyn sighed, dabbing her lips with a napkin. Perhaps if you weren't so anxious all the time, these things wouldn't happen. Stress isn't good for the baby. The room tilted sideways. My hands clutched the edge of the table, knuckles white. Through the growing fog, I caught the slight upturn of Evelyn's lips, that flash of satisfaction in her eyes, before concern masked it. Someone call an ambulance, Martin finally spoke up, his voice cutting through the chaos. I felt hands guiding me to the floor, heard Ryan's panicked return, the sharp sting of the EpiPen in my thigh. As the medication fought against my closing airways, one thought crystallized with perfect clarity. This wasn't a mistake. The next few hours passed in a blur of emergency room lights and monitors. Ryan never left my side, his face etched with worry and something else. Doubt, maybe, or the first cracks in his unwavering defense of his mother. The baby's fine, the doctor assured us for the third time. But Mrs. Henderson, you need to be more careful. With your severity of allergies, even cross-contamination could be fatal. I nodded, but my mind was elsewhere, replaying the dinner scene. The way Evelyn had insisted on serving me herself, how she'd watched, waiting, as I lifted that first forkful. I swear, Vic, I'll talk to her, Ryan said once we were alone. This can't happen again. I turned to look at him, really look at him, wondering if he could see what I already knew. It wasn't an accident. Don't say that. Mom would never, wouldn't she?
My hand rested on my swollen belly, protective. Think about it, Ryan. She's never accepted me, and now there's a baby coming. A baby that will take even more of your attention away from her. He shook his head, but I saw the doubt in his eyes deepen. That's crazy. She's not capable of murder. The word hung between us like poison. Maybe not, but she's definitely capable of sending a message. The hospital room fell silent except for the steady beep of monitors. Outside, a nurse walked past, her shoes squeaking on the linoleum floor. Ryan's phone buzzed, probably Evelyn, checking to see if her plan had worked. I won't let her hurt you again, he finally said, but we both knew it wasn't that simple. I closed my eyes, exhausted but mind-racing. If Evelyn wanted a war, she'd get one, but this time I'd be ready. This time, I'd make sure she understood exactly what it meant to mess with a mother protecting her child. 3 days after the dinner incident, I sat in Claire's kitchen, watching her pace with the kind of righteous anger only best friends can muster. The afternoon sun caught the silver highlights in her dark hair as she moved, making her look like she was crackling with electricity. She tried to kill you, Claire said for the third time, slamming her coffee mug down. And Ryan still making excuses? I traced the rim of my own mug, remembering the conversation with my husband that morning. He says we need to give her another chance, that she's been under stress lately. Stress? Claire's laugh was sharp enough to cut glass. I've treated patients under stress. They take up yoga, not attempted murder. My phone buzzed. Another message from Evelyn. Just checking on my favorite daughter-in-law. Those pregnancy hormones can make anyone overreact. Let's have tea tomorrow and talk. I showed Claire the message. Her eyes narrowed as she read it, professional assessment mixing with personal fury. Classic gaslighting. She's trying to make you doubt yourself. It's working on Ryan, I admitted. This morning, he suggested maybe I did overreact. That may be cross-contamination. Stop. Claire grabbed my hands across the table. You know what cross-contamination looks like. You've lived with this allergy your whole life. Trust your instincts. The baby kicked, as if agreeing. I pressed a hand to my stomach, remembering the fear in the emergency room, not just for myself, but for my child. Ryan's coming to the next ultrasound. Evelyn offered to come too. Absolutely not. That's what I said, but Ryan thinks it would help us bond. Claire's phone chimed, her reminder for her hospital shift. As she gathered her things, she fixed me with the same look she probably gave difficult patients. Document everything. Every text, every call, every accidental incident. Build your case. After she left, I sat alone in her quiet kitchen, thinking about patterns I'd dismissed over the past 3 years. The wedding cake that mysteriously contained almond extract, despite our explicit instructions. The Christmas dinner where Evelyn forgot to tell me about the seafood stuffing. Small things, easily explained away, building to this. My phone buzzed again. Ryan. Mom wants to apologize properly, he said when I answered. She's planning a special dinner. No. The word came out harder than I intended. Vic, she feels terrible. She's crying. Of course she is. I stood up, needing to move. Ryan, think about it. Why would she plan another dinner when I just had an allergic reaction? Why not just call or visit? Silence stretched between us. When he spoke again, his voice was strained. What are you saying? I'm saying your mother is playing a game and you're letting her. That's not fair. His architect voice now, the one he used when presenting difficult concepts to clients. She's trying to make amends. By putting me in the exact same situation. That's not making amends. That's testing boundaries. More silence. I could almost see him at his office, running his hands through his hair the way he did when stressed. Finally. Come to dinner, please, for me. I'll check everything myself, I promise. No. I gathered my things, heading for my car. I love you, Ryan, but I won't put our baby at risk to make your mother feel better. Vic, I have to go. I have a client meeting. A lie, but I needed space to think. As I drove home, another text from Evelyn arrived. Ryan tells me you're still upset. I raised him to be more forgiving than this. I hope pregnancy isn't affecting your judgment too much. I pulled over, my hands shaking as I read it again. The subtle dig about raising Ryan, the implied criticism of my maternal instincts, the continued suggestion that I was being irrational, all perfectly crafted to drive a wedge between us. Claire was right. I needed evidence. Opening my phone's notes app, I started documenting everything I could remember, starting with the wedding cake. 3 years of accidents and misunderstandings filled the screen. Looking at it all laid out, I felt something shift inside me. Not just anger or fear, but clarity. Evelyn had declared war the moment I married her son, and I'd been too busy trying to keep the peace to notice. Well, if she wanted war, I'd give her one. But first, I needed allies. I scrolled through my contacts until I found Martin's number. It was time to have a conversation with my father-in-law about his wife's cooking habits. Martin met me at a coffee shop across town, far from any of Evelyn's usual haunts. His hands trembled slightly as he stirred his coffee, the spoon making tiny circles that seemed to echo his hesitation. I should have spoken up sooner, he said, his engineer's precision making each word deliberate. The Christmas when Nathan's wife left, that wasn't just about their marriage problems. I leaned forward, my untouched decaf growing cold. What do you mean? Sarah had a peanut allergy. Not as severe as yours, but... He set the spoon down with a soft clink. There was an incident. Evelyn insisted it was an accident. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. Sarah left right after Christmas dinner. Nathan never questioned it. He always sides with his mother. Martin's eyes met mine, carrying years of silent witness. But I saw Evelyn in the kitchen that day. She was particular about which plates went where. My phone buzzed, another text from Ryan. Mum's really trying, Vic. She's even taking a cooking class focused on allergy awareness. I showed Martin the message. His laugh was hollow. She took a similar class after the Sarah incident, made a big show of it. Does Ryan know about Sarah? Nathan told him it was about the affair, the one that never actually happened. Martin pulled out his wallet, extracting a folded piece of paper. I've kept records, dates, incidents, patterns. I'm an engineer. We document everything. My hands shook as I unfolded it. Detailed notes spanning 15 years. Family members who'd challenged Evelyn. Subsequent accidents. Careful observations of her behavior. The methodical documentation of a man who'd watched helplessly as his wife systematically eliminated threats to her control. Why didn't you stop her? I tried once. He rolled up his sleeve, revealing a faint scar. Carbon monoxide leak in the garage. Another accident. After that, I started documenting instead of confronting. The baby kicked hard, making me wince. Martin noticed. She's escalating because of the baby, he said quietly. A grandchild she can't control. Born to a mother she can't manipulate. My phone buzzed again. Evelyn this time. Found the perfect recipe for your baby shower. Don't worry, I'm being extra careful about ingredients. Ryan says you're still not returning my calls. Pregnancy can make us so emotional, can't it? Something in me snapped. I pulled up the photos I'd been gathering, screenshots of her texts, pictures from past events, medical records from my ER visit. I'm building a case, I told Martin. I need your help. He stared at his coffee cup for a long moment. It won't be enough. Evelyn was a principal for 30 years. She knows how to cover her tracks, how to make others doubt their own perceptions. Why do you think Nathan still believes Sarah cheated? Then what do I do? Wait for her to succeed? No. He slid his notes across the table. You fight smarter. Use her patterns against her. I studied the papers more carefully, seeing what he meant. Every incident had a similar structure. The subtle undermining, the public display of concern, the way she turned witnesses into unwitting accomplices. The baby shower, I said slowly. She's already setting it up. Martin nodded. She'll want to host it. Control the food, the guests, the narrative. Unless someone else already planned it. I pulled out my phone, texting Claire. Need your help with something big. Be careful, Martin warned. Evelyn's most dangerous when she feels trapped. So am I. I gathered the papers, tucking them safely away. And unlike Sarah, I have proof and witnesses. As if on cue, my phone lit up with Claire's response. Already on it. Got some interesting info from a nurse who worked with your MIL years ago. Call me ASAP. Martin stood to leave, then hesitated. Victoria, Ryan's a good man, but he's been under her influence his whole life. Whatever you're planning, I know. I rested my hand on my stomach, feeling the baby move. But this isn't just about me anymore. He nodded once, understanding. As he walked away, my phone buzzed with another message from Ryan. Mum's crying again. Please just talk to her. I started typing a response, then stopped. Instead, I forwarded him a single photo. The hospital monitor from the night of the dinner, showing our baby's heartbeat racing as my body fought the allergic reaction. Sometimes the truth needs no words. And sometimes, the most effective revenge is simply bringing secrets into the light. I opened my notes app and added one more entry. Time to let Evelyn host that baby shower after all. I found the pregnancy test in Evelyn's bathroom trash can while searching for aspirin during a mandatory Sunday brunch. Pink line still visible, receipt from yesterday crumpled beside it. My hands shook as I snapped a photo, mind racing through possibilities, each worse than the last. Claire's voice echoed in my head. Document everything. Downstairs, Ryan and his mother were looking at old photo albums, her voice carrying up the stairs in that honeyed tone she used when strengthening her hold on him. I pressed my hand against my 7-month bump, fighting waves of nausea that had nothing to do with pregnancy. My phone buzzed. A text from Nathan's number, but the message stopped me cold. This is Sarah. We need to talk. Today. I typed back quickly. Corner cafe on 5th, 1 hour. Descending the stairs, I caught the end of Evelyn's conversation. And then we'll convert the guest room into a proper nursery. That way I can help more with the baby. Actually, I interrupted, we've already started the nursery at home. Evelyn's smile tightened. But you'll need help, dear. First-time mothers always do. Ryan squeezed my hand. Mum's just trying to help, Vic. I know exactly what she's trying to do. The words came out sharper than intended. I grabbed my purse. I have to go. Client meeting. On Sunday, Evelyn's eyebrows rose with practiced concern. You're working too hard. It's not good for... The baby. Yes, I know. You never let me forget. Outside, the autumn air bit through my jacket. I drove to the cafe in a daze, the pregnancy test photo burning a hole in my phone. Sarah was already there, looking nothing like the woman in Martin's old photos. Her hands wrapped around a coffee cup like it was a lifeline. I saw your name in the hospital records, she said without preamble. Shellfish allergy, just like my peanut allergy. Martin told me about Christmas dinner. Sarah's laugh was bitter. That was just the final act. Did you know Evelyn kept a detailed food diary when I was pregnant? Tracking everything I ate, suggesting what was best for the baby. My blood ran cold. Did you... lose the baby? Yes. Her knuckles went white around the cup. Severe allergic reaction at 7 months. Everyone said it was my fault for not being careful enough. Nathan believed her, of course. I'm so sorry. I'm not here for sympathy. She pulled out her phone, showing me a social media post from Evelyn, a photo of baby clothes with the caption, "Can't wait to help take care of my new grandbaby." She's already claiming your child, Sarah said softly, just like she tried to claim mine. The pregnancy test, the nursery comments, the constant undermining. Pieces clicked together with terrifying clarity. Why are you telling me this now? Because I ran. Sarah's eyes met mine. I ran, and I lost everything. My marriage, my family, my chance to be a mother. Don't make my mistake. Fight. My phone buzzed again. Ryan, where are you? Mum's worried. Of course she is, I muttered. Sarah reached across the table, her grip surprisingly strong. Be careful. The more evidence you gather, the more dangerous she'll become. She's not just trying to control you anymore. She wants your baby. I won't let that happen. No, Sarah agreed. You won't, because you have something I didn't. What's that? Me, Martin, Claire, witnesses who know the truth. She stood, leaving a business card behind. And you have these. She pulled out a USB drive. Copies of every email, every text, every accident report from my pregnancy. I kept them all, even after I left. Maybe I was waiting for someone like you. Later, sitting in my car, I stared at the pregnancy test photo again. Then I pulled up my messages to Ryan, fingers hovering over the keys. Instead of texting, I called Claire. I need you to run a test for me, I said when she answered. Check if someone's been tampering with my prenatal vitamins. You think? I don't think anymore, I know. I started the car, decision crystallizing. And I need you to help me set a trap. What kind of trap? I thought of Sarah's haunted eyes, of Martin's careful documentation, of the baby growing inside me. The kind that ends this, once and for all. Claire's lab results arrived while I was setting up my trap. Your prenatal vitamins were laced with trace amounts of shellfish extract, she said, her voice tight with controlled fury. Not enough to cause a severe reaction, but enough to keep you slightly ill, to make you look unstable. The baby kicked as I stared at the nursery walls, half-painted in soft yellows. Ryan's careful architectural sketches for the room layout still hung by the door, mocking me with their innocence. The baby shower's tomorrow, I said. Everything ready? Sarah's agreed to come. Martin's bringing the evidence. I've got 3 nurses from my unit who worked with Evelyn, ready to testify about past incidents. Claire paused. Are you sure about this? Going public at your own baby shower? It's what she'd least expect. I touched the small camera hidden in my necklace. And she'll be performing for an audience. My phone lit up with Evelyn's message. Just finished the special cake for tomorrow. Use that lovely almond extract you like. I showed Claire the text. See, she's already setting it up, making sure everyone knows I specifically requested almond extract, even though your medical records clearly show a tree nut sensitivity. Claire's typing echoed through the phone. Adding it to the evidence file. A key turned in the front door, Ryan coming home early. I quickly ended the call, but not before hearing Claire's final warning. Remember, if anything feels wrong tomorrow. Victoria? Ryan's voice carried up the stairs, worried. Always worried lately. Mum says you haven't confirmed the final guest count. I met him in the hallway, studying his face. The dark circles under his eyes matched mine, his architect's precision crumbling under the weight of divided loyalties. I was just looking at the nursery, I said instead of answering. Remember when we first designed it? He smiled, some tension easing. You shot down all my modern minimalist ideas, because babies need warmth, not concrete and glass. I took his hand, pressing it against my belly where our child moved. Ryan, what if something happened to me? His body stiffened. Nothing's going to happen. But if it did, would you let your mother raise our baby? That's not. Would you? I pulled away, needing to see his face clearly. Would you trust her with our child's life? Something flickered in his eyes. Doubt, maybe, or memory. You're upset about the vitamins. My heart stopped. You know? Mom mentioned you might be paranoid about them. She suggested we switch brands, but... Did she suggest the brand? His silence was answer enough. I walked back into the nursery, running my fingers over the crib rail. Sarah lost her baby at 7 months. Did you know that? Nathan said she was careless about her allergies. Is that what Evelyn told him to say? Ryan's hands gripped the doorframe. Why are you doing this? Because tomorrow your mother's either going to watch me eat that almond cake or watch me refuse and prove I'm being difficult again. I turned to face him fully. Which do you think she's planning on? Stop. Your father keeps records, Ryan, of everything. Every accident, every convenient allergic reaction, every person who's ever challenged her control. I said stop. His shout startled us both. In the sudden silence, he looked lost, almost afraid. Just come to the shower, please. Show everyone you're not. Not what? Paranoid? Unstable? Unfit to be a mother? Before he could answer, both our phones chimed. Evelyn had posted in the family group chat a photo of herself in the kitchen, surrounded by shower preparations, beaming with manufactured joy. The caption read, "Can't wait to take care of my girls tomorrow. La blessed grandma." Ryan stared at his phone, then at me, something finally shifting in his expression. She hasn't posted anything about the baby being a girl. We haven't told anyone yet. No, I agreed quietly. We haven't. He sank down onto the rocking chair we'd picked out together, head in his hands. After a long moment, he looked up, and I saw my husband again, not Evelyn's son. "Tell me everything," he said. "From the beginning." I pulled out my phone, showing him the growing evidence file. It started long before me, and if we don't stop it now, it'll never end. Tomorrow would change everything, but tonight, watching Ryan finally see the truth, I realized this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about breaking a cycle, about protecting not just our child, but every future victim of Evelyn's love. The baby shower cake sat in the center of Evelyn's dining room like a beautiful poison. Guests clustered around it, admiring the delicate frosting work, the perfectly piped roses. Only Claire, stationed nearby with an EpiPen in her purse, knew about the almond extract hidden beneath the sweetness. "Time for the mother-to-be to cut the cake." Evelyn's voice carried across the room, drawing everyone's attention. Her eyes met mine, a challenge wrapped in concern. "Unless you're still feeling unwell, dear." The hidden camera in my necklace felt heavy. Sarah stood in the corner, a ghost from Evelyn's past come back to haunt her. Martin's evidence file waited on my phone. Everything was in place, but something was wrong. Ryan wasn't here. He'd left early this morning, saying he needed time to think. Now his absence screamed danger. "Victoria?" Evelyn pressed the knife into my hand. "Everyone's waiting." Claire shifted closer. "We can still stop this." But I saw the phones already raised, ready to record what Evelyn had orchestrated. Either I'd eat the cake and suffer an allergic reaction, proving her point about my carelessness, or I'd refuse and appear paranoid, confirming her whispers about my mental state. "Before we cut the cake," I said, my voice carrying in the sudden quiet, "I'd like to share something." Evelyn's smile flickered. "The cake will get warm, dear. It can wait." I pulled out my phone, fingers trembling slightly. "I have some interesting photos to share first." The front door opened. Ryan walked in, but he wasn't alone. Nathan followed, carrying a familiar-looking box. "Mom," Nathan's voice cracked, "I found these in your study." My heart stopped. The box contained dozens of EpiPens, carefully labeled with dates and names. Sarah's, mine, others. "I can explain," Evelyn started, but Nathan wasn't finished. "There's more." He pulled out a notebook. Records of every reaction, times, doses, symptoms, like some sick experiment. The room erupted in whispers. Evelyn's face transformed, masks dropping away like autumn leaves. "You don't understand," she said, her voice taking on an edge I'd never heard before. "I had to know I could take care of them. Had to be sure I could handle any emergency." "By causing them?" Ryan's voice shook. "I protected them." Evelyn's composure shattered completely. "Sarah was reckless. Victoria's unstable. The baby needs—" "The baby?" My hand went protectively to my stomach. "What did you do to my vitamins?" "Nothing permanent." Her smile turned savage. "Just enough to keep you dependent, to show Ryan you needed help, my help." The room spun, not just the vitamins, every cup of tea, every meal she'd insisted on preparing. "How long?" I whispered. "Since the wedding." She stepped closer, reaching for my belly. "I had to be sure you were worthy, that you could handle it, and you failed, every time. But don't worry, I'll take care of everything now." Claire moved to intervene, but Evelyn was faster. She grabbed the cake knife from my hand, brandishing it with the expertise of someone who'd planned this moment. "Nobody moves," she said pleasantly. "Victoria and I are going to take a little drive to somewhere quiet where we can wait for the baby properly." "Mom, stop." Ryan's voice was steady now, certain. "It's over. It's never over." Her laugh was brittle. "Ask Sarah, ask any of them. I always win." The knife pressed against my side, hidden from the guests by her body. In her eyes, I saw something worse than hatred or anger, absolute conviction. "The baby's a girl," she whispered in my ear. "I've already picked her name." The room tilted sideways. All my careful plans, the evidence, the witnesses, none of it mattered. I'd underestimated her desperation, her willingness to destroy everything to maintain control. "Move toward the door," she murmured, slowly. I caught Claire's eye, saw her reach for her phone, but Evelyn saw too. The knife pressed harder. "One call," she warned, "and we'll see how well Victoria handles stress in her condition." As she guided me toward the door, I realized with horrible clarity, this wasn't just about exposing her anymore. This was about survival. And somewhere in this house full of witnesses, I had to find a way to save not just myself, but my daughter, from a woman who would rather destroy us both than lose control. Evelyn's hand trembled against my back as she guided me through the kitchen, past the shocked faces of party guests. The knife pressed harder when Ryan moved to follow. "Stay there, sweetheart," she called out, her principal's voice still perfectly controlled. "Victoria and I just need some girl time." The baby kicked, hard enough to make me gasp. Evelyn mistook it for fear, her grip loosening slightly. "See, she knows her grandmother." That's when I saw it. The reflection in the kitchen window. Martin, moving silently through the side door. All those years of staying quiet, watching, documenting, he'd learned how to become invisible to her. "Tell me about the others," I said, playing for time. "The ones before Sarah." "They were weak." Evelyn's voice took on a dreamy quality. "Unable to handle the responsibility. But you lasted longer than most, even with the vitamins, the food, the little tests that could have killed my baby. To make you stronger." The knife shook against my ribs. Everything I did was to protect this family, to ensure only the worthy remained. Martin was closer now. I caught Claire's eye through the doorway, saw her slight nod. Whatever happened next, they were ready. "Is that what happened to your baby?" The words hit like a thunderbolt. Evelyn's grip tightened painfully. "Who told you?" she hissed. "Your medical records." Claire's voice rang out clear. "From 40 years ago, the baby you lost because your mother-in-law decided you weren't worthy." The knife clattered to the floor. Evelyn's hands went to her throat, a gesture I'd seen before, when I was gasping for air at her dinner table. "She tested me too," Evelyn whispered, "over and over, until I failed, until I lost everything. So you became her." Martin's quiet voice behind us made Evelyn spin around. "You turned into the very thing that destroyed you. I made them stronger." But her voice cracked, the facade crumbling. "I had to know they could survive. By poisoning them." Ryan stepped forward, phone in hand. "We have it all, Mom. Every test, every accident. The police are on their way." Evelyn lunged for the knife, but I was ready. Months of rage and fear crystallized into a single moment of clarity. I kicked it away, watching it skid under the refrigerator. "You don't understand," she sobbed, but her eyes darted toward the drawer where I knew she kept her backup plan. More EpiPens, more ways to control through crisis. "I understand perfectly." My voice was steady now. "You're not testing us. You're punishing us for a crime we didn't commit. For a loss that wasn't our fault." She moved like lightning, yanking open the drawer, but Sarah was faster, having slipped in during the chaos. The drawer was empty. "Looking for these?" Sarah held up a plastic bag full of EpiPens. 40 years of weapons, Evelyn. "Did you label them all yourself?" Evelyn's face contorted. For a moment, I saw past the monster to the broken woman beneath. The grieving mother who'd chosen to perpetuate her pain rather than heal from it. "I can help you," she pleaded. reaching for my belly one last time. I know how to keep her safe. By teaching her fear, I caught her wrist. By making her doubt every meal, every relationship, every moment of joy. The baby kicked again, and something shifted in Evelyn's eyes. Recognition, maybe, or remembrance. I never meant, she started, but the words dissolved into sobs. Ryan moved forward, not to comfort but to contain. As he guided his mother to a chair, the sound of sirens grew closer. I did it for you, she whispered to him, all of it, for the family. No, Mom. Ryan's voice was gentle but firm. You did it to the family, and now it's over. As the police entered, I felt the weight of the hidden camera lift from my neck. Claire pressed an untainted glass of water into my hands. Martin stood guard by the drawer of horrors. Sarah watched her former mother-in-law led away, tears streaming down her face. Not for Evelyn, but for the baby she'd lost to this crusade. The revenge I'd planned had transformed into something else. A rescue mission, not just for myself and my daughter, but for every victim of Evelyn's twisted love, including, perhaps, Evelyn herself. Victoria, Ryan reached for my hand. Let's go home. Home, where we'd build something new from these ashes. Something based on trust instead of tests, love instead of fear. The baby kicked once more, as if in agreement. The nursery walls glowed soft yellow in the morning light as I rocked our daughter, breathing in her newborn scent. Ryan's architectural plan still hung by the door, but now they shared space with photos. Claire cutting the hospital bracelet, Martin holding his granddaughter for the first time, Sarah's tearful smile as she touched the baby's hand. The trial documents sat unopened on the changing table. Nathan had dropped them off yesterday, his usual indifference cracked by something darker. Mum's asking to see the baby, he'd said, not quite meeting my eyes. She's completed the court-mandated therapy, and with good behavior. I'd closed the door before he finished. Now, watching my daughter's peaceful face, I understood something about cycles, how they don't break cleanly, but spiral outward like ripples in water. The investigation had uncovered 3 decades of Evelyn's victims. Some had come forward for the trial. Others remained silent, their scars too deep for public display. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. Ryan entered, carrying 2 cups of tea. A simple act that had taken months to feel safe again. Claire called, he said, setting my cup down. Sarah's starting a support group. For the others. I nodded, remembering the quiet strength in Sarah's voice when she'd testified. How she'd looked directly at Evelyn and said, I forgive you, but I'll never forget. Nathan thinks we're being too harsh, Ryan continued, his fingers brushing our daughter's cheek. That everyone deserves a second chance. This was her second chance, I said quietly, and her third and fourth. Every victim was another chance to choose differently. The baby stirred, her tiny hand wrapping around my finger. We'd named her Hope, not for what we'd lost, but for what we'd found in the ashes of Evelyn's destruction. A new kind of family, built on truth instead of tests. Martin visited weekly, bringing his engineer's precision to grandfather duties. He'd installed security cameras, tested every surface for allergens, created spreadsheets of safety protocols. But unlike Evelyn's obsessive control, his care came wrapped in love, not fear. The prosecutor called, Ryan said after a moment. Mum's written another letter. I looked at the stack of unopened envelopes on my desk. Each one addressed to Hope, each one returned unopened. Evelyn's new method of control, trying to write herself into our daughter's story before it began. She says she's changed, Ryan added, but his tone held no conviction. Maybe she has. I shifted Hope to my shoulder, breathing in her baby powder scent. But that's her journey now, not ours. Through the window, I could see Claire arriving for her daily visit, carrying grocery bags. She'd appointed herself our food tester, our safety net, our bridge back to trust. In her wake came Sarah, then Martin, our chosen family gathering for Sunday breakfast. Sometimes I wonder, Ryan said, watching them approach, if revenge and healing look the same in the end, Mum's alone now, facing her demons. Isn't that what you wanted? No. I stood, cradling hope close. I wanted justice. The loneliness. That's just the natural consequence of her choices. Hope made a small sound, drawing everyone's attention as they entered. Sarah's eyes brightened, though I caught the familiar shadow of grief beneath her smile. Martin moved to the window, checking the locks with practiced ease. Claire unpacked groceries, each item carefully labelled and verified. We carried scars, all of us, but we'd learned to wear them differently than Evelyn had. Instead of using them as weapons, we'd turn them into shields, protecting the next generation from the poison of the past. "Ready for breakfast?" Claire called from the kitchen. "Almost," I answered, settling Hope into Ryan's arms. As I watched them together, I thought about cycles again. About how breaking them doesn't mean forgetting, but choosing differently. Every meal shared without fear, every touch given in love, every truth spoken openly, these were our victories now. The morning light caught Hope's face, making her look luminous. In that moment, I saw not just my daughter, but a promise. That some chains are meant to be broken. That some victories come not from revenge, but from refusing to continue the dance. I touched the last unopened letter from Evelyn, then turned away. Some stories needed to end for others to begin. "Coming," I called to Claire, leaving the past behind, stepping into the light of our hard-won peace.
The phone vibrates against my desk, my mother's name flashing on the screen like a warning sign. I let it ring 4 times, each buzz drilling into my skull before I finally answer. "Millie, darling, have you heard the news about Rachel?" Her voice carries that familiar breathless excitement reserved exclusively for my sister's accomplishments. I glance at the promotion letter sitting on my desk, the one I'd been planning to share. "No, Mother. What news?" "She's been offered a partnership at Anderson and Mills. Can you believe it? At her age, your father and I are absolutely over the moon." The words tumble out in a rush, each syllable another nail in my coffin of invisibility. "That's wonderful." I trace the embossed letterhead of my own achievement, the words Chief Technology Officer swimming before my eyes. "Actually, Mother, I wanted to tell you—" "Oh, and that's not even the best part. James proposed last night. We're planning an engagement party for next weekend. You'll need to clear your schedule, of course." My fingers curl around the promotion letter, crumpling its edges. "Next weekend? I have Lucas that weekend. Ben's out of town and, well, surely you can find someone to watch him. This is your sister's engagement we're talking about. You know how important family is." Family. The word tastes bitter in my mouth. Right, family. Speaking of which, Rachel mentioned you've been doing well at that little startup of yours. Maybe you could help with some of the wedding expenses? Your father's investments haven't been performing as expected, and Rachel deserves something special. The letter in my hand tears slightly under my grip. 5 years of climbing the corporate ladder, of juggling single motherhood with 60-hour work weeks, reduced to that little startup and an ATM opportunity. "I'll have to check my finances," I say, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. "The divorce and Lucas's therapy sessions have been expensive." "Oh, Millie." Her sigh carries years of disappointment. "If you'd just tried harder with Ben, Rachel always said he seemed unhappy." Of course she did. Rachel, who'd spent countless dinner parties flirting with my then-husband while I was busy taking care of Lucas's meltdowns. Rachel, who'd known about Sophie months before I did but never said a word. "I should go, Mother. I have a meeting. Don't forget about next weekend. And please wear something professional. The Anderson and Mills partners will be there." The call ends, but the silence that follows feels louder than her words. I stare at my reflection in the darkened computer screen. 31 years old, successful by any objective measure, yet still searching for approval in all the wrong places. My phone buzzes again, this time with a text from Sarah. "Drinks tonight? Michael's watching the kids." Before I can respond, an email notification pops up. It's from the company board, announcing my promotion to the entire staff. Congratulations flood my inbox, colleagues stopping by my office with genuine smiles and warm words. Jack from marketing brings me my favorite coffee, a small post-it note stuck to the cup. They finally recognized what we all knew. "Proud of you, Mills." I look at the torn promotion letter, then at Sarah's text, and finally at the family photo on my desk. Just Lucas and me at the beach last summer, both of us laughing at something long forgotten. The image blurs as tears prick my eyes, but for the first time today, they're not tears of frustration. I pick up my phone and text Sarah back. Definitely, I have news, and maybe an idea. Because here's the thing about being invisible. No one sees you coming. And after 31 years of playing the overlooked daughter, the forgiving sister, the dutiful ex-wife, maybe it's time to show them exactly who I've become. I smooth out the crumpled promotion letter and pin it to my wall, right next to Lucas's latest artwork. Let them keep underestimating me. Let them think I'm still that malleable, eager-to-please daughter. They'll learn soon enough. The wine glass trembles slightly in Sarah's hand as she processes what I've just told her. We're tucked away in our usual corner of Maxwell's, the Friday night crowd providing perfect cover for conversations better left unheard. $10,000. Sarah's whisper carries equal parts disbelief and outrage. For wedding flowers? That's just the deposit. I take a long sip of my martini. Mother called it a small contribution to Rachel's perfect day. And what did you say? I told her I'd think about it. The olive in my glass becomes suddenly fascinating. What else could I say? Sarah sets her wine down with more force than necessary. How about no? You're still paying off Lucas's occupational therapy, and Ben's child support payments are always late. They're my family, Sarah. Are they? Her voice softens. Because from where I'm sitting, they treat you more like their personal bank than their daughter. Before I can respond, my phone lights up with a text from Rachel. Hey sis, Mom said you're helping with the flowers. You're the best. Coffee tomorrow? Need to discuss some other wedding details. Sarah reads the message over my shoulder and makes a sound somewhere between a laugh and a scoff. Funny how she never wanted coffee when you were going through your divorce. The truth of it stings. I remember those endless nights, Lucas crying for his father while I tried to explain why Daddy lived with Aunt Sophie now. Rachel had been too busy with her law career to return my calls. I should go, I say, gathering my things. Lucas has therapy at 9 tomorrow. Millie, Sarah catches my wrist. Promise me you'll at least talk to Michael about the numbers before you commit to anything. He's good at finding the holes in these things. I promise, knowing I probably won't. The drive home is a blur of streetlights and memories, Rachel's law school graduation, where our parents gifted her a new car, my own graduation dinner, interrupted by Rachel's surprise announcement of her first internship. Lucas is already asleep when I get home, Michael having dropped him off earlier. His favorite dinosaur tucked under one arm. He looks so peaceful, so untouched by the complexities of adult relationships. I brush his hair back, wondering if my parents ever watched me sleep like this, if they ever felt this fierce need to protect. My phone buzzes again. This time it's my father. Millicent, he starts, using my full name like he always does when he wants something. Your mother mentioned you were hesitating about the flowers. I wasn't hesitating, Father. I was being practical. 10,000 is a lot of money. This is your sister's wedding. Surely your startup is doing well enough to help family? The dismissive pause before startup makes my teeth clench. We just secured Series B funding, but that doesn't mean... Excellent. Then it's settled. Your mother will connect you with the florist. Oh, and Rachel mentioned your meeting tomorrow. She has some thoughts about the venue deposit as well. The call ends before I can respond. I stand in Lucas's doorway, watching his chest rise and fall, thinking about the college fund I've been struggling to build for him, about the therapy sessions that insurance won't cover, about Rachel's designer wardrobe and my father's country club membership. My phone pings one last time. It's Jack from work. Hey Mills, board wants to announce your promotion at next month's investor meeting. They're excited about the PR angle, female CTO, single mom, real inspiration stuff. You okay with that? And suddenly, I see it. The leverage I've been missing. The way to make them finally see me. I text Rachel back. Coffee sounds great. Looking forward to discussing everything. Then I open my laptop and start researching my company's biggest investors. It takes less than an hour to find what I'm looking for. The connection between Anderson and Mills and our venture capital firm. The partnership offer Rachel's so proud of. The one our parents can't stop bragging about. The one that could disappear with a single well-placed comment at next month's investor meeting. I close the laptop feeling something shift inside me. Not guilt, exactly. More like recognition. Of power. Of possibility. I'm sorry, baby. I whisper to Lucas's sleeping form. But sometimes Mommy has to play by their rules to change the game. Tomorrow, I'll smile over coffee with Rachel. I'll nod at her plans and pretend to take notes about venues and deposits. And I'll start laying the groundwork for something my family never saw coming. Because they taught me well. Family helps family. They just never specified how. The engagement party invitation sits on my desk like a beautifully wrapped bomb. Cream-colored cardstock, gold lettering, and there in the corner, a tiny note in my mother's handwriting. Sophie will be attending with Ben. Please be civil. Civil. As if I'm the one who needs the reminder. I'm still staring at it when Jack knocks on my office door. Emergency meeting with the board in 10. Apparently, Anderson & Mills is making waves about our latest acquisition. My fingers trace the edge of the invitation. Rachel's firm? Yeah, weird timing, right? They've never shown interest in our deals before. I slip the invitation into my drawer, something cold and certain settling in my chest. Weird indeed. The boardroom is tense when I arrive. Our CEO looks like he's aged 10 years since yesterday. Millie, good. We need damage control. Anderson & Mills is threatening to block our merger unless we restructure the deal. They're claiming conflict of interest. On what grounds? Your sister. He slides a document across the table. Rachel Carter is listed as lead counsel on their objection. The room goes quiet. I scan the document, my sister's signature bold at the bottom. The same signature I've watched her practice since we were kids, perfecting every loop until it looked exactly like our mother's. I can handle this, I say, my voice steadier than my hands. Later that afternoon, my phone rings. Ben's number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but Lucas's therapy bills flash through my mind. You're late with the payment again, I answer. Yeah, about that. His voice has that smooth quality it always gets when he's about to disappoint someone. Sophie and I are putting money down on a house. I might need to adjust the payment schedule. Adjust? The word tastes like acid. Lucas's therapy isn't optional, Ben. Come on, Mills. You're doing well at that tech thing. And with Rachel's wedding coming up? What does Rachel's wedding have to do with your son's care? A pause. Sophie mentioned you're handling the flowers. 10 grand, right? If you can afford that. The laugh that escapes me doesn't sound entirely sane. You're using my sister's wedding flowers to justify shorting your child support? Don't be dramatic. I'm just saying. No, I'll tell you what I'm saying. You'll make the full payment on time, or I'll have my lawyer contact Anderson & Mills about revisiting the custody arrangement. I'm sure Rachel would love to handle that case too. The silence that follows is satisfying until he breaks it with, Sophie's pregnant. The world tilts sideways. I grip my desk, wedding invitation sliding from the drawer as I steady myself. Congratulations, I manage. The payment is due Tuesday. I end the call and text Sarah. Need you? Now. She responds immediately. On my way. Michael's got the kids. I'm still sitting there when Jack returns. Hey, the board wants to know how you want to handle the Rachel situation. Jesus, Mills, you're white as a sheet. I'm fine. I stand, smoothing my skirt. Tell them I'll present a strategy tomorrow. And Jack, could you pull everything we have on Anderson & Mills' partner track requirements, specifically their conflict of interest policies? He gives me an odd look, but nods. Sarah arrives as I'm gathering my things. One look at my face, and she wraps me in a hug that nearly breaks me. Sophie's pregnant. I whisper into her shoulder. Oh, honey. And Rachel's trying to block my company's merger. She pulls back, eyes sharp. What are you going to do? I think about the invitation in my drawer, about Lucas's therapy sessions, about Ben's new house and baby and perfect Sophie, about Rachel's partnership track and my parents' pride. I'm going to attend my sister's engagement party, I say, picking up my bag. And I'm going to smile and congratulate Ben and Sophie. And then I'm going to remind my family exactly who they've been underestimating all these years. Sarah studies me for a long moment. Just remember Lucas in all this. I am. I touch the photo of him on my desk. Everything I do is for him. And maybe it's time he saw his mother stand up for herself. As we leave, I send a quick text to my mother. About the flowers, I'll handle everything. And don't worry about Ben and Sophie, I'll be perfectly civil. Because that's the thing about civility. It's the perfect cover for warfare. And I've just been handed all the ammunition I need. The engagement party feels like a carefully choreographed dance of daggers. Crystal glasses catch the light, conversations buzz with artificial warmth, and there in the center of it all stands Rachel, radiant in designer white, while Sophie rests one manicured hand on her still flat stomach. Millie. My mother's voice carries that familiar note of criticism. You're late. Lucas's therapy ran long. I accept a glass of champagne from a passing waiter, noting how my mother's eyes narrow at the mention of her grandson. Where's father? Discussing the Anderson and Mills situation with Rachel's partners. She lowers her voice. Really, Millicent, couldn't you have handled that merger more discreetly? It's putting Rachel in such an awkward position. Before I can respond, Jack appears at my elbow. Sorry to interrupt, Mrs. Carter, but I need to borrow Millie for a moment. Board emergency. My mother's dismissive wave follows us as Jack guides me to a quiet corner. You need to see this. He hands me his phone, displaying an email thread. Rachel's not just blocking the merger. She's suggesting a hostile takeover through one of Anderson and Mills's clients. The champagne turns bitter in my mouth. She wouldn't. There's more. Jack scrolls down. The partner overseeing the deal, Tom Carter. My father, of course. Across the room, Ben laughs at something Sophie says, his hand protective over her abdomen. Rachel joins them, all three heads bent together in conspiratorial intimacy. What's our play? Jack asks. Give me an hour. I hand him back his phone. And Jack? Thank you. For everything. He squeezes my arm before disappearing into the crowd. I find Michael by the bar, his steady presence an anchor in the storm. Where's Sarah? Home with Lucas. He was asking for you. Michael studies my face. What's wrong? I need a favor. I tell him about the takeover attempt, about my father's involvement. Can you look into Anderson and Mills's financials, specifically any connections to Carter family investments? Jesus, Millie. He runs a hand through his hair. This isn't just business anymore. This is your family. They stopped being family the moment I catch myself as Rachel approaches. Millie, I've been looking everywhere for you. Her smile is perfect, practiced. We need to discuss the venue deposit. Mother says you're handling it. Actually, I set down my glass. We need to discuss Anderson and Mills. Her smile flickers. That's just business, sis. Nothing personal. Like Sophie wasn't personal? The words hang between us, sharp and dangerous. Rachel's mask slips just for a moment, revealing something that looks almost like guilt. You don't understand, she whispers. Father's investments. The wedding. We need this deal. And suddenly everything clicks into place. The desperate grab for the merger, the rushed wedding plans, the constant demands for money. My family isn't just greedy, they're drowning. Miss Carter? A young associate appears. Your father needs you both in the study, immediately. The study is father's domain, all leather and mahogany and old money pretense. He stands at his desk, mother perched anxiously nearby. Shut the door, he commands. I do, feeling like I'm 10 years old again, about to be scolded for some imagined slight against Rachel. The merger, he begins, must go through, under our terms. Or what? The words escape before I can stop them. Or this family loses everything. He spreads documents across his desk. Bank statements, investment reports, all bleeding red. Your sister's partnership, the house, your mother's social standing, all of it depends on this deal. And Lucas's trust fund, Rachel adds quietly, the one Ben set up through father's firm. The room spins slightly. You put my son's money into your failing investments? We had no choice, mother interjects. Rachel's wedding, her career trajectory, we had to maintain appearances. I look at them, these people who share my blood but not my values, who gambled with my child's future to maintain their facade of success. I'll have my answer tomorrow, I say, turning to leave. Millicent, father's voice stops me. Remember where your loyalties lie. I think of Lucas, waiting at home with Sarah, of Jack, who believed in me when no one else did, of the life I've built despite them, not because of them. I remember exactly where my loyalties lie, I say, and close the door behind me. In my car, I text Michael, start digging, I want everything. Because some loyalties need to be broken before they break you. Michael's research arrives at 3 a.m, a detailed email that makes my hands shake. I forward it to Jack with 2 words, board meeting. By dawn, I'm in my office, staring at the skyline as the sun bleeds across the horizon. The door opens without a knock. "You can't do this," Rachel says, still in her evening wear from whatever society function she's attended. "Father will never recover." Like Lucas won't recover from losing his trust fund? I don't turn around. "How long have you known about the embezzlement?" Her silence is answer enough. "Did Sophie know too? Is that why she stayed with Ben after the affair? Because father was funneling company money through his accounts?" It's not that simple. Rachel's heels click across the floor. Everything father did, he did for us, for the family name. No. I finally face her. Everything he did for you. And now you want me to save him by tanking my company's merger. We can make it work. She pulls out a folder. "I have a proposal if you'll just..." "Miss Carter?" Jack appears in the doorway. "The board is ready." Rachel grabs my arm as I pass. "Please, don't do this." For a moment, I see past the designer dress and perfect makeup to the little sister who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. Then I remember Lucas's therapy bills, Ben's late payments, my parents' constant dismissal. "You should call father," I say. "The SEC will be visiting Anderson and Mills this afternoon." The boardroom falls silent as I enter. These people trusted me, promoted me, believed in me when my own family wouldn't. I won't let them down. "The merger is compromised," I begin, laying out Michael's findings. "Anderson and Mills has been covering illegal transactions through shell companies. My voice catches. I feel Jack's supportive presence beside me. "Thomas Carter has been orchestrating it for years. The evidence is irrefutable. Board members exchange glances. My phone buzzes repeatedly. Mother, father, Ben. I ignore them all. "We'll need to distance ourselves immediately," our CEO says. "Millie, given your connection..." I understand. I slide a folder across the table. "My resignation, effective immediately." Actually, he shares a look with the other board members. We had something else in mind. Hours later, I pull into Sarah's driveway. Lucas runs out, throwing himself into my arms. "Mommy, Aunt Sarah let me have pizza for breakfast." Sarah appears in the doorway, concern etched on her face. "Michael told me what happened. Are you okay?" "No." I hug Lucas tighter. "But I will be." My phone rings again. Rachel. This time I answer. "They're arresting him," she sobs. "Father's being arrested, and mother's having a breakdown, and it's all over the news, and..." "Rachel." My voice is steady, surprising even me. "I have to go. Lucas needs dinner." "How can you be so cold? We're your family." "No." I watch Lucas showing Sarah his latest drawing. "You're the people who used my son's trust fund to cover up fraud, who used my company to fix your mistakes, who never once..." I swallow hard. "Who never once put me first." "The board made you CEO, didn't they?" Her voice turns hard. "This was your plan all along." "Goodbye, Rachel." Inside, Lucas chatters about his day while Sarah makes coffee. My phone lights up with a text from Jack. "Press conference tomorrow at 9. You ready for this?" Another text arrives from Ben. "We need to talk about Lucas's custody arrangement." Then mother. "How could you do this to your father?" Finally, father. "You'll regret this betrayal." I silence my phone and sit at Sarah's kitchen table, watching Lucas color. He looks up, smiling that innocent smile that makes everything worth it. "Mommy, are you sad?" "No, baby." I touch his cheek. "I'm just thinking about choices. Like when you choose pizza or hamburgers." Something like that. I pull him close, breathing in his clean, sweet scent. "Sometimes you have to choose between what's easy and what's right." Sarah squeezes my shoulder as she sets down coffee. "You chose right, Mills." My phone screen lights up one last time. A news alert about Anderson and Mills, about my father, about the new CEO appointment at my company, about choices and consequences and the price of truth. I turn the phone face down. Tomorrow will bring its own battles. Tonight is for pizza and coloring and the family I chose, not the one I was born into. Sometimes revenge looks like justice, and sometimes justice looks like walking away. The hospital ceiling swims in and out of focus as I try to make sense of the doctor's words. Stress-induced collapse, severe exhaustion, mandatory rest. Jack stands in the doorway, his usual confidence replaced by worry. "The press conference." "Can wait," Sarah interrupts, adjusting my IV. She needs rest. My phone lights up. Rachel's name again. I've lost count of her calls since Father's arrest 3 days ago. The room spins when I try to reach for it. Lucas, I manage to whisper. Who's with Lucas? Michael has him, Sarah assures me. But your parents? No. The word comes out sharper than intended. They can't have him. They're his grandparents, Mills, and with you here. The door opens, and Mother sweeps in, perfectly coiffed despite everything. Millicent, really. Hospitalized right before Rachel's business launch. The timing is incredibly inconvenient. Sarah's hand tightens on the bed rail. Jack mutters something about getting coffee and escapes. Mother, I try to sit up, fighting the dizziness. I need you to watch Lucas, just for a few days. Oh, darling. She adjusts her designer scarf. We simply can't. Rachel needs us at the launch. It's crucial for rebuilding our reputation after what you did to your father. The monitor beside me beeps faster. What I did? Well, if you hadn't been so vindictive. But that's not important now. We've arranged for Lucas to stay with Ben and Sophie. They're expecting their own child, after all. It'll be good practice. The room goes cold. You did what? Ben's already picked him up from Michael. Sophie's so good with children, and really, it's better for Lucas to be with stable parents right now. I rip the IV from my arm, ignoring the sharp sting. You had no right. Actually, Ben appears in the doorway. I had every right. My lawyer filed for emergency custody an hour ago. Given your current state and the scandal with your family, the floor seems to tilt beneath me as I stand. Sarah grabs my elbow, steadying me. Where is my son? Safe, Ben says. With Sophie, away from all this mess you've created. My legs give out. Sarah catches me before I hit the floor, helping me back to the bed. The room spins violently. It's temporary, Ben continues, almost gentle. Until you're better. Sophie's already enrolled him in a new therapy program. One that won't embarrass the family, Mother adds. Really, Millicent? Art therapy? What would people think? I look at them. My mother in her perfect outfit, Ben in his expensive suit, and see strangers. People who've taken everything, piece by piece, and still want more. Get out. My voice shakes. Both of you. Millie, Ben starts. Get out. They leave. Mother's heels clicking a sharp rhythm, Ben's cologne lingering like a threat. Sarah pulls out her phone. I'm calling Michael. We'll get him back, Mills. Don't. I close my eyes against the tears. They'll use any interference against me in court. You know they will. The silence that follows is broken only by the steady beep of monitors. Jack returns. Coffee forgotten. The board, he says quietly. They're reconsidering your position, with everything happening. Of course they are. Father's arrest, my collapse, the custody battle about to explode across headlines. I've become a liability to the very company I helped build. My phone buzzes again. Rachel. I'm sorry about Lucas, but you brought this on yourself. Then Mother. It's for the best, darling. Sophie will be a wonderful influence. Finally, Ben. We'll take good care of him. Maybe this time apart will help you reflect. I think of Lucas with Sophie, learning to call her Mom, of my father in jail, my mother at Rachel's launch, my sister building her business on the ashes of my sacrifice, of everything I've lost in my quest for justice. Mills? Sarah's voice seems far away. What do you need? I need my son. I need my family to love me as much as they love their reputation. I need the past month to disappear. But what I say is, time. I need time. Because revenge was supposed to feel like victory. Instead, it feels like this. A hospital room, an empty bed, and the sound of my world crumbling while monitors count each hollow heartbeat. The boardroom feels different at midnight, colder. The city lights below cast shadows across Rachel's face as she stands at the window, her perfect posture finally showing cracks. They're freezing our accounts, she says without turning. All of them. The FBI says Father's fraud went deeper than anyone realized. I set my laptop on the conference table. I know. Now she does turn, mascara smudged beneath her eyes. Of course you do. You're the CEO now, aren't you? Everything you wanted. Not everything. My voice stays steady. Where's Lucas? Safe, with Sophie. She moves to the table, heels silent on the thick carpet. Mother's having another breakdown. The launch failed. Everything's falling apart and you're just watching. Like you watched when Ben left, when Lucas needed therapy, when Father gambled away his trust fund. Her hand trembles as she reaches for my laptop. If you help us, maybe we can fix... No. I close the laptop before she can touch it. I'm done fixing your messes. He's asking for you, she whispers. Lucas. He doesn't understand why Mommy's not coming home. The words hit like physical blows, but I grip the chair until my knuckles whiten. Ben's custody claim won't stand. Not now. What do you mean? I push a folder across the table. Sophie's pregnant, but not with Ben's baby. The dates don't match. And her new therapy program for Lucas, unlicensed, run by her cousin. The same cousin who's been helping Father hide money. Rachel sinks into a chair. How did you... I learned from the best. Family helps family, right? The elevator dings. Ben storms in, Sophie trailing behind him. You vindictive bitch. You told the FBI about Sophie's clinic? No. I stand slowly. I told them about the money laundering. The clinic was just a bonus. Sophie's face crumples. Ben, I'm sorry. I never meant... Shut up. He rounds on me. Where's the evidence? Already submitted, along with proof that you knew about Father's fraud when you filed for emergency custody, trying to hide Lucas before it all came out. His fist slams the table. Rachel flinches. Sophie backs away. You've ruined everything, he snarls. No. My voice rises. You did that. All of you. Every time you chose your reputations over my son. Every time you protected your perfect facade instead of protecting him. Mills. Jack appears in the doorway. They're here. FBI agents flood the room. Rachel starts crying. Sophie confesses everything in a rush. Ben threatens lawyers until handcuffs click around his wrists. Through it all, I stand still, watching my family's carefully constructed world crumble. Millie. Rachel catches my arm as they lead Ben away. Please, help me fix this. For a moment, I see us as children again, Rachel running to me after skinning her knee, trusting her big sister to make everything better. I can't. I gentle my voice. Some things shouldn't be fixed. Then why? Her grip tightens. Why did you wait until now? You had the evidence for weeks. Because I needed to know if any of you would choose Lucas. Just once. But you didn't. You never do. Sarah appears with Michael, who carries a sleeping Lucas. My heart stops, then restarts. The judge signed the order, Sarah says. Full custody reinstated. Sophie confessed to everything. Lucas stirs as Michael hands him to me. Mommy, can we go home now? Yes, baby. I kiss his forehead, breathing in his familiar scent. We're going home. Rachel watches, tears streaming. What happens to us? You rebuild, without me. I adjust Lucas in my arms. Some families aren't worth saving. Millie, goodbye, Rachel. I carry Lucas out, past the agents, past Sophie's tears and Ben's threats and the ruins of my father's empire. Sarah and Michael flank me like guards. Jack holds the elevator. You okay? He asks as we descend. Lucas snuggles closer, already falling back asleep. Safe. Finally safe. No, I answer honestly. But I will be. Because revenge wasn't what I thought it would be. It wasn't loud or triumphant or satisfying. It was this. Quiet choices in midnight boardrooms. Truth instead of facades. The weight of my sleeping son in my arms. And maybe, finally, peace. The newspaper sits untouched on my desk. Father's sentencing hearing splashed across the front page. Rachel's text remains unread. Mother's asking for you. Please come home. Home. Such a simple word for such a complicated concept. Lucas bursts into my office, brandishing a drawing. Look, Mommy, it's our family. I study the crayon figures. Me, Lucas, Sarah, and Michael, their kids, Jack holding what appears to be a coffee cup. The edges of the paper are decorated with dinosaurs. It's beautiful, baby. I touch the empty corner. Is there room for more? He considers this seriously. Maybe. But only if they're nice. Miss Amy says we don't have to keep people who make us sad. Miss Amy, his new therapist, who specializes in art and doesn't care about what society thinks, who sees Lucas's sensitivity as a strength, not an embarrassment. Mills? Jack appears in the doorway. Rachel's here. Lucas grips my hand. Is she nice now? I don't know, baby. I squeeze his fingers. Want to help me find out? He nods solemnly. Rachel stands by the window, thinner than I remember, designer clothes replaced by simple jeans and a sweater. She turns when we enter, eyes fixing on Lucas. Hi, buddy, she says softly. Remember me? Lucas studies her, head tilted. You made Mommy cry. Rachel flinches. I did. I made a lot of mistakes. Mother's in therapy, she continues, addressing me now. Real therapy, not the kind we used to mock. Father's accepting a plea deal, and She swallows hard. I'm starting over. A small practice, helping families navigate custody battles, trying to prevent what we did to you. We? The word hangs between us. I knew about Sophie's clinic, about Ben's plans for Lucas. I could have stopped it, but I was so angry that you'd succeeded where I'd failed, that you'd built something real while I was still playing the role they chose for me. Lucas tugs my hand. Can I show her my drawing? I nod. He presents it proudly. Rachel traces the crayon figures. It's wonderful. You're very talented. There's room for more, he announces, but only if you're nice. A tear slides down Rachel's cheek. I'd like to try, if your mom lets me. I study my sister, really study her. The perfectionist facade has cracked, revealing something raw and real underneath, something that might, with time and work, become authentic. Sunday dinners, I say finally. At Sarah and Michael's, once a month. We start there. She nods, understanding the terms, the boundaries, the chance that must be earned, not demanded. Can I? She hesitates. Can I hug him? I look at Lucas. He considers, then steps forward, offering a brief embrace before retreating to my side. Thank you, Rachel whispers. After she leaves, Lucas adds a small figure to his drawing's corner. That's Aunt Rachel, he explains, but I used yellow instead of red, because she's trying to be sunny instead of angry. I pin the drawing next to my degrees and awards, evidence of a different kind of success. Sarah texts, monthly dinner still on, Michael's grilling, Jack's bringing that woman from accounting. Lucas requested dinosaur-shaped nuggets. I smile, remembering Mother's horror at chicken nuggets on fine china, at therapy sessions instead of society parties, at a CEO who chooses finger paintings over family legacy. Another text arrives, from Ben's lawyer. Client accepts revised custody agreement. No appeals. Then Rachel. Thank you for the chance. I won't waste it. Finally, a message from an unknown number. Miss you, sis. Sophie. I delete the last one without responding. Some bridges stay burned. Lucas tugs my sleeve. Can we go home now? I want to show Miss Amy my new drawing tomorrow. Yes, baby. I gather my things, leaving the newspaper unread. Let's go home. Because revenge wasn't in the destruction after all. It was in the rebuilding. In choosing which walls to repair and which to leave in ruins. In teaching my son that family isn't about blood or obligation, but about the people who make space in their drawings for you. Even if that space starts small, in the corner, drawn in yellow instead of red.